Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because only the Sleep Number Climate 360 smart bed lets you each sleep up to 13 degrees cooler or warmer on either side, while you both sleep at your ideal level of firmness, comfort, and support, your Sleep Number setting. And now our all-new next-gen smart beds have temperature benefits, so you sleep better night after night. And now the new Queen Sleep Number C2 smart bed is only $8.99. Ends Monday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
Hello, I'm Frank Cockrell, the Retirement Security Center with a weekly economic update. The Federal Reserve determined to keep the discount rate the same for the second consecutive meeting. Raising rates once more is still a possibility when they meet in December to remain vigilant in their fight against inflation. One of the biggest drivers of recent inflation is wages. Wage growth has averaged 4.6% over the past 12 months. With unemployment still under 4%, this could be a persistent issue. Some positives due to inflation are retirement plan contribution increases and tax bracket relief in 2024. Standard contributions to 401k and 403b accounts have increased to $23,000 with a catch-up option of $7,500 for those 50 and older. IRA and Roth limits are raised to $7,000 with an additional $1,000 eligible for those 50 and older. Federal tax filers will see an increase in the amount of adjusted gross income earned to be able to stay in the same tax bracket. Adjusted gross income is your income after deductions. How might this affect you or your family? Please go to frankontheradio.com to schedule an appointment, watch videos, and receive market updates. I'm ready to help you start your journey so you can define your future.
Frank Cockrell is a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation, a broker-dealer and member SIPC and registered investment advisor. Retirement Security Centers is not an affiliate of Lincoln Financial Advisors.
Model year-end pricing is back at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
During the model year-end event, lower interest rates at Folsom Lake Honda make lower payments. It's no wonder why Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop. Come in today or check out our entire inventory online at folsomlakehonda.com.
Get an instant cash offer for your trade at folsomlakehonda.com. We'll buy your car whether you buy from us or not. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop.
Folsom Lake Honda.
Go to folsomlakehonda.com.
Your one-stop Honda shop.
The game of football is about pain. Ever since I was 5 years old, it's been all about football. It's been about running, jumping, blocking, tackling. I stopped playing at 31.
You're listening to Michael Robinson, retired pro fullback.
I thought that foot pain was going to be with me for the rest of my life. I'm so glad I met Good Feet. I'm so glad that those arch supports are in my shoes. I have terrible foot issues that prevented me from really having a normal life with my kids. With the Good Feet arch supports, man, I'm always ready. My kids actually got to enjoy me in the yard more, racing each other, backpedaling, teaching them some things, being a dad. If I had known about the Good Feet arch support earlier, I would have more than one championship. I would have 2 championship rings.
See what we can do for you with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
The Good Feet Store in Sacramento, Roseville, Stockton, Modesto, and Vacaville.
From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios. KHTKAM Sacramento, KYMX HD2 Sacramento. Sacramento's official home for the San Francisco 49ers.
Touchdown! San Francisco!
Sactown Sports.
Feeding your passion for local sports in the afternoon. It's the Drive Guys with Kevin Gleason and Kyle Drake on your radio at 1140 a.m.
Streaming audio at SactownSports.com and the Sactown Sports app.
You can also watch the show on YouTube at Sactown Sports 1140. Here are the Drive Guys with Kevin Gleason and Kyle Drake.
Yeah, no Kyle Draper today. Flew into Houston today. That's all right. We got that side of the desk covered here because nice enough to join us once again, all-time Kings icon, the one and only Jerry Reynolds. JR, welcome back to the show. Thanks for helping us out today.
Yeah, I'm glad I could. You know, it's always a lot of fun. Certainly when I can be on the show with you or listen to you and Kyle, or you know, it's a kind of a thrill. But, you know, not a big one, not a big one.
A little bit,
just a little bit.
I'll take that. So Jerry and I with you. I mean, the plan is the next 4 hours, but I know, 4 hours is a long time, Jer, and got to be honest with you. I had today, let's see. Yeah, I still got I had 2 vaccinations today. So hopefully I'll make it through 4 hours, but 2.5 hours in, if I start to keel over,
Yeah, nothing to worry about because there'll be a dead air if that happens. Because I'm walking out the door.
Okay, but I'm sure we'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
And I know right now we have, monitors on the wall here, and NBA TV is replaying that game last night. The Spurs against the Suns. And I know just talking to you briefly before the show today, that game made quite an impression on not only you, but a lot of people around the league. But how about that Wembanyama?
Well, he was absolutely great. And I been one of those people that had watched him because just out of interest, and certainly you could see the potential. And I was the one who said, well, in about 2 or 3 years, you'll probably see a real major game changer. Well, I saw it last night.
Because he did it with the game on the line, right? In the fourth quarter.
Game on the line, and Phoenix had come back really from a big deficit to tie it, and he just kind of took over the game. I mean, I can't think of a rookie being any more impressive other than LeBron James, but I'd put him in that category, really, of the potential that he has.
He's just such a unique player. Sometimes players come along and they seem to be hybrids of one type of player and another. Like the way Magic was like a 6'9" point guard, and then LeBron had some of that too. Wembanyama is, I don't know, a 7'4" point guard. It's just, I don't recall anybody who had the skill level he had. We've seen bigs that could, handle a little bit, pass, but he seems to be taking all of that to a level we've never seen before.
Yeah, really, I think best way to describe, he's a 7'4" player.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just a
He's
basketball.
not limited by his size.
He is not limited by his size, and certainly, but it's a clear advantage most of the time. But he's a one of one if there ever has been.
Mm-hmm. So how would you, if you're coaching up your team, you're playing against him, how are you advising your post player to guard him?
Well, I don't know that I'd guard him with a post player. I think I'd prefer putting my best big wing on him and just see, because at least you could affect his ball handling, and then if he wants to go inside and shoot over top, well, he'd shoot over top your center anyway.
Yeah.
So might as well not worry about that. And you can always double him in the post.
Yeah.
So I would definitely think in terms of putting somebody like Keegan Murray on him and just seeing how it goes.
How good is a guy like that for the NBA? Isn't it incredible? Every so often you get the guy, the next one. Sometimes they don't live up to the hype. LeBron did, and so far this French guy's doing it too.
Yeah, he's I always say about every generation there's that one special guy, and I think of course LeBron's in his 20th year or so, and so it's been 2 decades, and I think of all the good rookies that have come through the league in the last, none have been like LeBron, or I don't think any have been like this guy. So yeah, just probably good timing as some of the great players, older players, are starting to kind of phase out.
Wemby's ahead of schedule, it would appear. Do you think maybe the Spurs are? I always get carried away with this. So I watch them and they win a couple games and I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna be a playoff team. I mean, do you think there's a chance that team is ahead of schedule with him this year?
I think they are. I think Coach Pop had basically most of the same guys last year, and they played hard every night, and I think he figured out a way to take some of them out when they at winning time sometime. But he had some nice pieces there, and they, and I think they've bought in, and I think I think you have to take them pretty serious.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh? Because last year, if you weren't watching closely, it seemed like they just had a bunch of guys. But now you realize, wow, Keldon Johnson's a good player. Devin Vassell's a good player. Zach Collins is a good player.
Yeah. Zach, of course, was injured for a couple of years, but he's a great fit with him because he'll do the kind of the dirty work a little bit.
Isn't he the guy that the Kings could have drafted, but they ended up with Harry Giles?
Well, that's when they traded that pick and got 3 picks, and he was the 10th pick. I mean, there was other guys like Donovan Mitchell was 13th.
Sure.
But so it's always that way though. But with Harry, and then the North Carolina kid, I was trying to think who that was. They got was
Jackson.
Gosh.
JJ. Yeah.
Anyway, JJ, because he was always one of those guys that, everybody said, boy, in a few years, he's really going to be good. And I was thinking, no, he's not.
Yeah.
I wish he was, but
because remember the company line was they got him, and then they got De'Aaron Fox from Kansas, and then they got Frank. They got De'Aaron Fox from Kentucky.
Frank Jackson.
Yeah. So it's like, all the blue blood programs.
Yeah. Justin Jackson, Frank
Mason.
And then Harry Giles, all the Duke, Carolina.
Yeah, it's like, wow, look at that.
Yeah, look at that, boy. But, every player on those franchises really aren't pros.
Yeah, and I hope De'Aaron Fox isn't watching. I apologize for saying he went to Kansas for a minute there. Pardon me. Were you more encouraged or discouraged by how that game against the Warriors went. Ultimately, and it took me a while to sort through it, so frustrated with another narrow loss to the Warriors. But I do think, honestly, I was more encouraged by the fact that they seem to be playing better defense than I was discouraged by the loss. How about you?
Well, you're always discouraged by the loss. I mean, because I thought the Kings deserved to win, or certainly as much as the Warriors did. And to the Warriors' credit, they made the final shot.
Right.
But I thought, yeah, to your point, I thought the defense was outstanding. You know, I think Coach Brown made some adjustments that really did make a difference. And, you know, playing without your guaranteed 25, 30-point guy, a lot of guys stepped up. The shooting wasn't good. And I think that's another encouraging point, to have a chance to win when you really aren't shooting well.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, or guys you're counting on shooting well didn't. So all in all, I mean, to my mind is you can see where the Kings have a chance to be as good or better than last year.
Real quick here, since we were just talking about it, 2017 NBA draft, Markelle Fultz, number 1, Alonzo 2, and then Tatum 3rd, Josh Jackson to the Suns, then De'Aaron Fox to the Kings, Jonathan Isaac to Orlando with the 6th pick. 7th pick was Markkanen. Frank Ntilikina was the 8th pick. I thought he was going to be good. Not yet, but we'll see. Dennis Smith Jr. Zach Collins was 10th. The 11th pick by the Charlotte Hornets was Malik Monk.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh-huh. Luke Kennard, 12th. Donovan Mitchell, 13th. Bam Adebayo, 14th. And then Justin Jackson, Portland Trail Blazers traded to the Kings. Justin Patton, DJ Wilson, TJ Leaf, John Collins, Harry Giles, 20th to the Kings. OG Anunoby, was 23rd in that draft. And Derek White was 29th. So that draft didn't turn out exactly the way teams expected it to, but they rarely do.
They almost never do. And yeah, you know, I was looking at a guy like Derek White, you know, talk about a guy who'd be a perfect fit on this team. Big, long, defensive-minded guard that can score. But that's why Boston loves him.
Yeah, and by the way, with the 57th pick, second round, the Brooklyn Nets selected Sasha Vezenkov that year.
Wow.
How about that? Yeah. When is he going to – I hate to be impatient, Jerry. When is Sasha going to start making more shots?
Well, yeah, that's a great point. I think you have to be patient. I'm going to give him probably 30 games just to give him a chance to really fit into the league, because it's an adjustment for European players. Like I say, I've saw Peja go through it, Hito go through it. The league, I can't say it's as much more talented as some people might think, but it's a lot faster game.
Yeah. And
so the European players are really used to playing more structured basketball, more play sets, and more zone defenses. So it's a definite adjustment even for the good ones.
Kyle Draper and I were talking to Henry Turner a couple nights ago as he got ready for game night. And Henry Turner said sometimes it looks to him like Sasha is almost his release is too quick. Like he's not even getting the ball set in his hands before he's letting it fly. I don't know.
I think it's a good point. I mean, that has surprised me, but I kind of saw that in Europe as well, watching some of those
it's
games.
Incredible.
I mean, it is gone. Once leather touches his fingers, it's on the way.
Yeah.
He just reroutes it.
Yeah. It's almost like a tip. Frank Mason III was the Kings' second round pick, 34th pick in that draft. And we're talking about this 2017 draft. Let's see, I had it here a minute ago. It was Dylan Brooks. Yeah, Dylan Brooks actually drafted technically by the Rockets with the 45th pick. So
they got him back. So.
Yeah, and the Kings probably going to have their hands full with him this weekend or tomorrow night, Monday.
Yeah, he's certainly helped that Rockets team. I mean, I think they're getting Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. Getting a couple of veterans in there and a new coach. I think. They're going to be much improved. I don't know that they can be a playoff team, but much improved.
Mm-hmm. Are you up for questions today? If anybody on the chat or the text line, or they want to call in with questions for Jerry?
Absolutely. I just can't promise I can answer them.
339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. If you got any questions for the great Jerry Reynolds today, we'll be right back with a look at how the Kings can win without De'Aaron Fox and how long they might have to try to do that. It's the Drive Guys, Jerry Reynolds in today, Sactown Sports.
Can Mike Brown build on last season's Coach of the Year award? Can the Kings exceed 48 wins?
We will be better prepared to make the run that we expect to run come next playoff.
Tune into every Kings game this season on Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com.
Red Hawk Resort Casino is an entertainment experience like no other. We're the only place where you can play blackjack, then hop on an indoor card track. We're the only place with more than 2,000 of the hottest slots and a state-of-the-art 18-lane bowling center. And now with a world-class sports bar and a resort hotel to stay after you play. Is it any wonder we've been voted best over 100 times? We're Red Hawk Resort Casino, official casino partner of the Sacramento Kings.
Hey y'all, this is Bill with the Good Guys. Call Good Guys Heating and Cooling now. Tired of overpriced repairs? Call the Good Guys. Jaw-dropping quote for a new HVAC system? Call the Good Guys. Don't trust the other guys. Call the Good Guys. We offer free second opinions. Family owned and operated, always ready to serve the community. We offer the best service, best price, guaranteed. And that's no bull.
Call 530-GOOD-AIR. License number 1057618.
The Drive Guys, live and local. Every afternoon, Monday through Friday on Sactown Sports.
Today featuring Jerry Reynolds with Kyle Draper. They should be in Houston by now, right? They left this morning, so they're probably
I would
town
think
now.
so, yeah.
And I know the Kings, they were supposed to practice as soon as they landed. That's what Kyle told me yesterday. Also today, De'Aaron Fox is having his number retired at his high school, being a Texas guy.
That's great. Yeah. You know, obviously, I can't imagine somebody from his high school being better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure he came out of a good high school. But the career he's had, get it retired. And someday maybe the Kings will retire it as well.
Yeah, I was very proud, Jerry, when I played at Hogan High School in Vallejo, and when I was done, they gave me the jersey, and I thought they were going to hang it up. They said, no, we need you to wash it. Take it home. You didn't wash it well enough. So, oh, well. You know.
No, that's so you didn't make a lasting impression is what you're saying.
I didn't. Speaking of lasting impressions, some people who are in the text line are wondering if Wembanyama is becoming the player that Willie Cauley-Stein thought he always was. What do you think? What do you think of that?
Well, that's a great question because Willie did have a high opinion of his gifts and talent, and didn't seem to match up very well. That was Willie, as it turned out. Willie turned out to be another lottery mistake.
Oh well.
Well.
Yeah.
But
didn't he thought he was Porzingis? I remember him calling himself a unicorn, but he just
he kind of was. It just wasn't the way he thought. Willie, it's a shame because he did have enough talent to be a productive, at least 8th, 10th man kind of guy, but I just don't think he could ever handle that.
Hey, we got some great questions for you rolling in here. Let's see. Dwayne Baker, Jerry, what is your favorite non-Kings NBA moment in your career?
Non-NBA.
And if some of these we can circle back if you need time to ponder them, because I know that's encompasses a lot of time.
Well, actually, probably my most exciting basketball moment in my life was when I was in the 8th grade, and the Springs Valley Blackhawks beat the Vincennes Alices in a.
I'm sorry, the Alices?
That's what they were called. Yeah, I don't have you feel good about that, but that's what they were called. And Frankie Self stole the ball to win in overtime, and they went on to the Sweet 16 and later the Final Four in an open class.
Oh, but you weren't in that. You weren't.
No, I was just in 8th grade. I hadn't reached stardom yet. It would take the next year.
Yeah, but you were an ultra fan.
I was always a fan, but that's when it just, I knew I had to be involved in basketball. Just had to.
Yeah. It's funny. We were talking to Tim Roy last Friday when we were at the arena, and I was asking Tim Roy about his, lifelong love for basketball. And he said he was a kid. He was at the Boston Garden. And he said, I think I told you this when we did our pod this week, but he said Connie Hawkins dunked over Dave Cowens, and he was there, and he said that was it. I was hooked for life.
Yeah, it is like those things. I mean, obviously everybody would have a different thought on it, but what really strikes them, I mean, I'd certainly, fallen in love with the game to some degree much younger, but that was the time when I just, I was old enough to know I could play pretty good. And I just had to play for the Springs Valley Blackhawks. I just had to.
You don't want to play for the Alices?
Yeah, it's a strange. Well, that in those days, Indiana high schools, for all the consolidations, they had all their nicknames would be based on something in town.
Oh,
And Vincennes, there was a bestseller, Alice of Old Vincennes.
oh, okay.
That was a bestseller
All
back
right.
in the 30s or
Yeah.
something. And so they became
Interesting.
the Vincennes Alices. I always say, I always remember once playing Fort Branch High School, and they were the Fort Branch Twigs. And I remember in the huddle, talking guys, we was walking out. I said, let's go snap those twigs.
There you go. There you go. From Mojo 916, Jerry, do you think Siakam would be a good fit for the Kings?
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, he's extremely lively, has some, small forward skills with power forward skills and size. So honestly, he'd be ideal. It's like anything, just how much you'd have to give up for him. And I think that's the tough part, but I think he'd be an ideal fit.
I've been a huge Siakam fan for a couple years now, but I kind of gave me pause when after last year, somebody asked Masai Ujiri, their GM, about Siakam and the way he played for them last year. And he said, we had a lot of guys that were way too selfish. And I just thought, wow. I mean, he's still on the team. It's not like they're blasting somebody that they traded. I was a little surprised that the GM threw him under the bus like that. So now I'm not as big of a Siakam fan as I was.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a pause for concern, but then I always say, well, I watched him play on a world champion, and be very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe there's other extenuating circumstances, and maybe the GM is trying to cover for himself.
Yeah, right. What about his teammate OG Anunoby, who in the offseason was linked to the Kings quite often?
Yeah, I'm probably not as high on him as most fans. I read all the blogs and this, that, and podcasts and this, that, and the other, and I think he's good. But he's not available all the time.
He gets hurt a lot, and he's not a great shooter, is he? He's a little up and down.
He's kind of up and down. I mean, there again, you'd like to have him, and I think he could improve you, but if you didn't have to give up too much. But I know from what I've been told by some people that what they're asking for, in my mind, would be way too much.
Especially given that, if I'm not mistaken, both those guys are going to be free agents.
Going to be free agents, and so you'd want some assurances there. And I think that's the biggest question about Siakam, because, you don't want to rent him.
Yeah. No, it's just not worth it. Jerry in today for Kyle. So we're answering some of your questions for Jerry. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Manny, too legit. Says, question for Jerry. With the depth that we have, knowing we were so close to beating the Warriors without Fox, how much does that mean to this team to nearly win against a good team without your best player?
Well, I think, the truth is they're probably very disappointed. They thought they could win and played like it and expected to, even without Fox. But after it's all over with, I think they can look back and say, hey, our best scorer, best player wasn't available, and we really had a chance to beat them. And Coach Brown, I really had an interesting defensive schemes that I thought were very effective.
Lots of zones.
And so there's I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, and you don't want to get caught up in the moral victory thing. But if there is such a thing, that might have been it.
I would think at the very least, it's not a moral victory, but the team knows now that without Fox, we can still be very competitive. But they did seem to lose their way a little bit in the fourth quarter when he typically takes over offensively.
Yeah, that's something that you can't replicate. I mean, I always said certainly, because as we've seen, I mean, Fox is at his best in the fourth, and they don't honestly have a guy that can do what he does. And so, once
not a lot of teams do, right?
No, I think honestly, I'd have to put him certainly in one of the top 5 guards in the world right now.
Wow. And still improving potentially.
And still getting better, as he gets stronger. And I think defensively has improved dramatically as well. Now we're seeing the 3-point shot a little better.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always been, for a big-time scorer, very unselfish.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just becoming a few years ago, I wasn't as big a fan as I am now. I wasn't for sure if he's going to turn that corner, but he sure did.
What did he do to turn the corner in your mind? Just prove that he's dedicated to getting better, becoming a better player?
Well, I think certainly I thought he's a bit, to my mind, and he would disagree, of course, but I thought his first couple of years was pretty soft. Really didn't get into guys, which he had the ability to do. And now we're seeing that. And I think as he's gotten better, what always happens, players as they get better know they're better. And then the better you get, the more you want to work to keep getting better. I mean, that's kind of the mark of a great one. And I think that's why, and he, being a great young talent, realized, well, I've got to be better on both ends. And he is. So, I always said most point guards, with the exception being, Magic Johnson and a couple, 2 or 3 through history, it takes about 3 years for him to really kind of get it.
Yeah.
And then, with Halliburton being so good, it probably, in a way, held him back a year too. And no disrespect to Tyrese, because probably Fox hurt him too.
Yeah.
They neither could be as good as they could be.
Yeah. You want to know what's really up? Yeah, we got Jerry all afternoon here today on the Drive Guys. It's hard to know about a player's injury because obviously we don't see him, we don't talk to him, but we know that De'Aaron Fox, moderate ankle sprain. We know that he says he's still got some pain day to day. Based on what we know of ankle sprains, it does sound like if he were to play tomorrow, like that might be a little too soon.
I kind of think so. I'd certainly, at this stage of the season, if it's the playoffs, you might look at it different. I know, and he would probably, but I know he wants to play. That's to his credit.
Yes.
But I would say, if it's a little sore, a little tender, let's just wait a couple more days.
Yeah, because you need him at 100% at some point if you're going to get anywhere near what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, and the fear of maybe, kind of re-injuring it or damaging it to some degree to where, it's not fully healed. You might set him back another week.
Here's one for you from Amadrock. Apparently went to Vallejo High School. Huh? Okay. Jerry, who was the favorite player you coached and the least favorite?
Well,
you can take that anywhere you want. Obviously.
Yeah. Well, probably in the NBA. I mean, and certainly I could go back in college and find difference, but I'll just stay with the NBA. I'd say Eddie Johnson might have been.
I'm trying to get him on to talk to you today, by the way. I reached out to him, but I think they're flying into Philly or something.
Yeah, but he was a delight, real pro and a leader. And at least like that, probably was Derek Smith. And I apologize for saying that because I know he's passed away at an early age, but he was a handful. Put that way, he was a handful.
He was kind of like James Harden, who James Harden said, "I'm not part of the system. I am the system." Derek Smith kind of thought he was a system.
He didn't come in to fit in, and that team was really close, and and you traded a Mike Woodson, Larry Drew, very good guys that fit into the system, and you're hoping, get a more talented guy that would raise you. And he was probably more talented, but he was damaged goods. And so it just didn't work very well and created a lot of tension on the team and with the coach.
But Eddie was the opposite, right? He was going to do what the team needed.
Eddie was, and he'd really help with the young guys and set them straight, pro's pro, just an absolute pro's pro.
We got to try to get him on. Yeah, I know he's got his own show and everything, but we'll get Eddie on for you. When we come back, speaking of James Harden, can it work with LA and the Clips? How good can the Sixers be with former NBA GM, coach Jerry Reynolds with us, answering your questions as well at 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. It's a Friday with the Drive Guys on Sactown Sports.
Last season, the Sacramento Kings gave us a little bit of everything. A Pacific Division type, GM of the Year, Coach of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, All-Stars and All-NBA performers. Plus, we got to light the beam.
Here's a steal by Fox, the breakaway. He's got the rip with the left hand.
What does this season have in store? Find out. Each and every Sacramento Kings game can be heard right here on your proud home of the Beam Team, Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com.
Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Hey, small business owner. Are you ready to have the best year ever in 2024? When's the last time you checked your workers' comp rate? For many small businesses, workers' comp insurance is one of their biggest costs. But Pi Insurance could save you up to 30% in just 3 minutes. Go to trypi.com, share a few details about your business, and get a quote that's customized for your business. No hassles or hidden fees. We know you're busy, but spending just a few minutes to check your rate could make this your best year ever. Plus, when you sign up for pay-as-you-go billing, your premium is based on your actual payroll, not an estimate. So your workers' comp audit experience is simplified. See how much you could save with Pi Insurance. Ask your agent for Pi or get a quote at trypi.com. That's TRYPIE.com.
Fall. Auto, Uber, Lyft, or big rig accident, you need Ashton and Price in your corner. When you call Ashton and Price, there's no chatbot telling you to hit 3 for accounting. You're greeted by a real live person who will immediately transfer you to an experienced attorney. The consultation's free, and there's never a fee until you win.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
Did you know one of the worst things you can do is turn on your furnace after it's been sitting there all summer, gathering dust, without giving it a thorough tune-up first?
Think about it. What if your car had been sitting in the garage for 6 months without ever running?
Any piece of machinery that's been sitting needs to be tuned up. So call Bell Brothers. We'll tune up your furnace for just $87 and guarantee the results.
We guarantee that your tuned-up furnace will save you $87 on your energy bills. And we guarantee that your tuned-up furnace won't break down during the season, or we'll immediately refund your money. No questions asked.
Don't delay. Small problems that are easy and inexpensive to fix can quickly turn into big, expensive problems.
Call Bell Brothers right now to schedule your furnace tune-up at 916-444-1234 or find us online at thenosurpriseguys.com. That's 916-444-1234 or online at thenosurpriseguys.com.
The No Surprise Guys, Bell Brothers.
It's no secret to golf enthusiasts that Timber Creek and Sierra Pines in Roseville are one of the region's most unique and scenic places to enjoy a great game of golf. 27 holes, boundless options. Elevate your game on our newly renovated driving range, putting green, and chipping area. Whether you're aiming for fun, lower scores, or all-around growth, we've got you covered. Experience golfing dreams in Roseville and book your tee time at timbercreekgc.com. Timber Creek and Sierra Pines, your ultimate golf haven.
Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sactown Sports.
Yeah, we're just getting warmed up on a Friday. Kyle Draper in H-Town today, getting ready for the Kings and the Rockets tomorrow and Monday. The great Jerry Reynolds, nice enough to join us. Thank you, Jerry, for coming in.
Love it, buddy. Love it.
Yeah. Well, I know you got to get your rest this weekend because you got to get up early Sunday to watch your Chiefs play the Dolphins in Frankfurt. That game's on 6:30 our time. So
I'll be up.
Will you?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to miss some of my homies.
What happened last week, by the way? I'm not calling you out. I'm just asking.
Well, Mahomes was sick. He had the flu or flu-like symptoms, So we give him a pass.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for all your questions here. Coming up today, by the way, Ryan Hollins, former King, now a Rocket broadcaster, should be joining us at 5 o'clock. Emil Fragoso, our 49er insider, at 4 o'clock. Not much going on this week with the 49ers after the trade deadline, but now that the dust has settled a little bit, we'll see where things are with them. Then it looks like, let me see, I don't know this guy, Mark Kreidler. Do you know Mark Kreidler?
Legendary writing talent on radio many years, kind of carried you, as I recall.
He did. He wrote something interesting today about Bobby Knight, and given that, you're from Indiana, I thought we could have it should be an interesting conversation about 5:30 with Mark Kreidler and Jerry Reynolds talking about the passing of the great Bobby Knight. So we got all that coming up, along with more of your calls and more of your questions for Jerry, including this from Andrew Cardwell. Jerry, do you feel like making the playoffs last year lifted the burden of 17 years, or do the Kings need to go further this season for that to happen?
Oh, I think the burden has been lifted.
Burden.
That burden was, it was lifted.
That burden has flown.
But now it's a new set of challenges, no doubt. I mean, certainly they proved they were a good team, surprised the league to a great degree, and, third in the West. So all that, in my mind, lifted that burden. That 16-year stretch or whatever has been put to rest. But now expectations are greater, there's no doubt, and I think probably most fans expect to be in the playoffs. I'm one of them. I expect to be in the playoffs, and I would be honestly a little disappointed if they can't advance. I wouldn't say, depends on the opposition as much, which you can't control that, who it's going to be or who deserves to win. But yeah, you're always expecting, okay, they're good. We know they're good. Now show me a little more.
I got the impression that, yes, it was quite an accomplishment for the Kings to get into the playoffs, but Mike Brown from day one of camp and even before that wanted to make sure that the players didn't get any sense of having done anything yet, right?
Oh, yeah, I think he's pushed all the right buttons. It's remarkable. And like I say, I thought his defensive adjustments against the Warriors in the second time around really was terrific and kind of gave the Kings a chance to win because you controlled Curry. And,
about time, huh?
Oh, boy, is it? Of course, I mean, every team in the league saying about time.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, just absolutely a marvelous player.
But I know you're like all Kings fans getting tired of the night and
yeah. I mean, as much as I've liked him over the years, I'm kind of tired of all of his attention-seeking deals. Just be a great player. Just be a great player.
339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Let's talk to Dave. Joining us here, Drive Guys on Sactown Sports. How are you, Dave? Happy Friday. Dave? Going once, twice. Did we lose Dave? Sorry about that, Dave. Give us a call back. We'll get you on the air. Not sure what happened, but I think it might have been on your end. Oh, wow. Hey, Eddie Johnson. Oh, Eddie Johnson. I should be free. Text me around 4 p.m. your time.
All
Your
right.
guy, Eddie Johnson.
Eddie, the best.
Yeah. How about that? All right. So we got that coming up as well here today on Sactown Sports. We're just talking about James Harden. What do you think is the reason why the Clippers, you have any idea, Jerry, why the Clippers decided to make that move? Before you answer, here's a sound that I'm sure you heard. James Harden yesterday talking about why he wasn't a good fit in Philadelphia.
When I'm in a leash, I'm not meant just shooting the basketball every time. I meant like I think the game and I'm a creator on the court. You know what I mean? So if I got a voice to where I can, hey coach, I see this, what you think about this? Then it's like, oh, okay. Like somebody that trusts me, that believes in me, that understands me, that I'm just not I'm not a system player. I am a system. You know what I mean? So somebody that can have that dialogue with me and understand and move forward and figure out and make adjustments on the fly throughout the course of games, that's all I really care about. It's not about me scoring the basketball, scoring 34 points. I've done it already. So that's what I meant by that.
If you're Nick Nurse, how you feeling about that right now?
I tell you what, if you're Nick Nurse, and of course, whatever coach he's played for the last several years, it's like he said, he probably is not a system player. He's his own system.
Yeah.
The thing I think he's starting to miss is that his system is not the same level system it used to be.
Right.
There's a reason he was acquired for very little.
Mm-hmm. He's not a joke. I know that. I know he's been an MVP and he led the league in assists last year. Very talented, but his concept of himself seems to be a little bit out of whack with reality. Can we agree with that?
Oh,
agree
absolutely.
on that?
Yeah. Certainly he's at his peak. He was one of the elite players in the league, but that's been a while. And then all the demands of trades and not getting along with teammates and coaches. We'll see. I think you mentioned earlier, why would the Clippers do it? And I think probably with their history of injuries with their major stars, they're thinking they're getting insurance. I'm not sure they are.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, I said, if you're Nick Nurse, how you feeling about that? Nick Nurse doesn't have to worry about it anymore. I apologize. It's not Nick Nurse's problem. It's Ty Lue's problem.
Ty Lue,
yeah.
He's an awful good coach, but he's going to be challenged. He's going to be challenged.
But for the Sixers, my point being the Sixers, this is a tremendous weight lifted off of them as a team, right? That he's gone and that's all resolved now.
Yeah, it certainly looked like, the last game they played. I mean, they really seemed like put a game together. And they've got their 4 or 5 guys who are all good.
Always like Maxey.
And he's a star in the making. He's a little bit about a year behind the era in that way. Really close to just elite. And then of course Embiid. But it's a team that a real threat in the East.
Family Slagle says, I predict this Clipper team to win the NBA championship in 2016. and I think he's onto something there. Maybe a little past their expiration date there. But if by chance they were able to stay healthy, a very formidable group potentially.
Well, they could, yeah, they're capable talent-wise if they're healthy, which that's a big if.
Mhm.
And I think 2016, right? 2016. I mean, we've been predicting that since 2016. I think. Seems like
when Doc was there, right? It looked like, oh, watch out for this team. And they could never, to me, part of their problem was they could never keep their best players on the floor together long enough during the regular season for them to have the type of continuity you need in the playoffs to actually do any damage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just can't, I thought we saw it last year a little bit, different reasons where Kevin Durant was hurt, and just joined the team, then got hurt, missed a couple of weeks, then the playoff starts, and they flamed out pretty easy. And, great players are, they need their time with their role players. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially I would think that would especially make a difference at the defensive end, right? Because, I mean, defense in basketball seems to me that it's kind of like offensive line play in football. Everybody's got to you got to know what the other guy's doing, and when he's doing it to have the type of continuity that's going to make you effective.
Yeah, because individual defense is almost impossible to stop top scorer. So you have to have help, and to have help, you have to know where your help is coming from, and can you count on them?
Mm-hmm.
And in a short period of time, I don't think you can know that. That's why most coaches say, well, we're getting there, and 30, 40 games, we'll know what we've got. And I know as a fan, it's hard to say, well, why would it take that long? And I don't think it should take that long, but I understand where it should take 10 to 20 games to get some sort of a feel for your rotations, your defense, and all that.
Yeah, and obviously Kings fans are hoping, and the coaches are hoping, that given the fact that the Kings played this system last year, that this year they would be better just by virtue of being more familiar with the system. And it's awfully early, but I mean, defensive rating wise, I think right now they're 17th. And again, it's just very early, but I think there are some really encouraging signs defensively for this Kings team.
I do too. I think they're definitely better. I think continuity's had a good bit of it. I think, by being together, Coach Brown can make some changes or adjustments to his defense. As you get veteran players who've been together, they can figure it out better. I think the only disappointment, I think offensively, they're probably not as good as I thought they would be.
I know. That's the one thing that wasn't going to happen, right?
Yeah,
we know they're going to be as good offensively.
Well, it's kind of like the Niners, the defense will take care of itself. Well, it really hadn't.
Yeah. Guys are just missing too many shots.
Yeah, you got to make, the old, I think it's true in the NBA, if you don't make your threes, you're probably going to lose at a pretty good percentage. And for a team like the Kings and like about 25 others that depend on the 3-point shot to win.
Mm-hmm. Would you prefer it if the teams didn't shoot as many threes as they do nowadays? You'd like to see it go back a little bit to the older days?
Oh, I could live with it going from 50 to 25. Yes. And it's actually seeing some post play and some play off the dribble in the mid-range area more.
But it's not happening, is it?
No.
Not unless you get rid of the corner three.
Until you get rid of the corner three, like Adam Silver, if he would listen to me, I guarantee people would like the game better again.
Yeah.
Where the 3-point shot, it's actually a skilled shot, not a little short 2 foot. I mean, I've said, if you're going to allow 3 points for that shot, then give guys 12-foot free throws occasionally.
Right. I think I've mentioned this to you before, and I know it's way out there. So I don't like this idea, but it's an idea. I think the guy who came up with this idea his name is Tom Goldsberry, I think, and he's an analytics guy and he's an author. And he suggested that every team in the NBA, kind of like in baseball, teams the fences are in different places. The fields are not all the same distances. He says every team should be able to put the 3-point line as far away as they want. What do you think of that?
I think that's about as stupid as anything I've ever heard.
So, again, it wasn't my idea. Well, I was just wondering what you thought.
Well, no, I know. It's just Mr. Goldsberry or whatever his name is. You better stick to something that makes sense.
So you'd have like teams that were better at shooting. Well, anyway, you can imagine what it would look like, kind of an undulating line, depending on where you're playing.
Well, yeah, it'd be, you had a team of no shooters and you have, a 40-foot line.
Yeah.
And if you're a bunch of like Curry and Clay and those guys, you'd have 15-footer. Like I remember in college one year, they had a 3-point shot that was only about 17 feet.
Really?
In the ACC. for 1 year. And of course, it just was ridiculous.
Yeah, that is. And I know the NBA, and pardon me here, I'm trying to think if this is when you were a head coach. I think it was a little after, could be wrong. The NBA moved the 3-point line in so that it was like 22 all the way around, right?
Yeah, it was.
You were done coaching then, I think.
Yeah, that was the
95, 96 or so.
Yeah, kind of right in there, 95, 96, 97. I think a couple of years they had it. And it's always interesting to me because Sarunas Marciulionis, that was his range. When they moved it back out, he couldn't make threes. And it's that fine line of a couple of feet. I mean, not saying he couldn't make them, but he couldn't make them at a winning percentage. And
Mitch would still have his toe on the line.
And he'd have toe on the line. They move it to 12 feet, he'd have his toe on the line.
We're going to take a time out here when we come back. Look at the most surprising King stat that I don't think they're getting enough credit for. That's next year. Of course, more questions for Jerry. If you got them, 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Jerry's in for Kyle today. It's Drive Guys on Sactown Sports.
Will Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers brass go all the way this season? Could the Niners win their first Super Bowl since 1995? Join us throughout the season to hear all the games and all the analysis on Sactown Sports at SactownSports.com.
Model year end pricing is back at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
During the model year end event, lower interest rates at Folsom Lake Honda make lower payments. It's no wonder why Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop. Come in today or check out our entire inventory online at FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Get an instant cash offer for your trade at FolsomLakeHonda.com. We'll buy your car whether you buy from us or not. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop.
Folsom Lake Honda.
Go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Your one-stop Honda shop.
Does your dog leave frowny piles of poo around the yard? Did you know that a solid poo is one of the best indicators of your dog's gut health? Supreme Source Super Premium Dog Food is made with organic super seaweed and other powerful antioxidants, supporting a healthy digestive system. Real protein is always the first ingredient, plus a blend of essential vitamins and minerals to help support your dog's overall health and well-being. Do their digestion a solid, literally. Find Supreme Source Premium Dog Food at Safeway, Safe Mart, and Winco, or a local grocery store near you.
Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop. Here's Frank LaRosa.
Most people know that the term birdie in golf refers to a score of 1 under par, but where did the term originate? According to Scottish Golf History website, it comes from the early 20th century American slang term bird, which meant anything excellent. While a 1911 edition of Maclean magazine described a golf shot as bird straight down the course about 215 yards, the country club in Atlantic City lays claim to the first use of the word birdie. In 1898, A.B. Smith was playing the par 4 second hole when his second shot went within inches of the hole. That was a bird of a shot, he said, and claimed he should get double money if he scored 1 under par. He did indeed hold his putt, and the group thereafter referred to such a score as a birdie. In 1913, acclaimed writer Bernard Darwin wrote in the September issue of Country Life of his visit to America. He explained that it takes a day or two for the English onlooker to understand that a birdie is a hole done in a stroke under par. And now you know. That's Golf to Go. I'm Frank LaRosa.
I'm Craig Ashton of the injury law firm of Ashton and Price. Whether you've been injured on a bicycle, as a pedestrian in a slip and fall, auto, Uber, Lyft, or big rig accident, you need Ashton and Price in your corner. When you call Ashton and Price, there's no chatbot telling you to hit 3 for accounting. You're greeted by a real live person who will immediately transfer you to an experienced attorney. The consultation's free, and there's never a fee until you win.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
Guys, Revive Men's Health Sacramento is making you this guarantee. We will improve the medical condition of your ED or low T, or we'll give you your money back. Book your free appointment today. Call 916-277-8599 or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Carmichael Dave here for Jiffy Lube, your proud sponsor of the Drive of the Game. Now listen to every Kings game for Gary Gerald's Drive of the Game call, then listen to Jason and myself the next morning for a chance to win a $100 Jiffy Lube certificate courtesy of all the Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area. Get your vehicle ready for the holiday driving season at Jiffy Lube today. Oil changes, wiper blades, tire rotations, and more. For more information, go to jiffylube.com.
Kings player in Kings history, and why? Manny Too Legit wants to know.
I think, I think he can become the best Sacramento Kings player in history. I don't think he can become the best franchise player in history because that's Oscar Robertson, and that just isn't going to happen. I mean, it's too late for that. Oscar was one of the 2 or 3 best in the world first year, and stayed that way.
Who is the best in Kings history at this point? Would you say Webb?
I would say Webb. I would say Webb, and Mitch second, and I really think De'Aaron has passed Mitch. Though, I do. I mean,
that's a Hall of Famer, as you well know.
Yeah, I mean, now the difference is Mitch did it for 4 or 5 years in a row, and so this is the second year for Fox. So you still got to count the whole deal, but at the same stage of career and the kind of year he had. So there's every reason to believe he'll pass Mitch, and I think C. Webb as well. So
wow,
and like the only 2 guys I would put ahead of him franchise would be Oscar Robertson and Nate Tiny Archibald, who was a lot like De'Aaron, and he did it longer before he had a Achilles injury, which still he was a quality player, but never the dominant player.
That's 2 of my most favorite things the Kings have done since I've been here is that they retired. And I remember I think they brought both of them. I know Big O was here. They retired their numbers and they had ceremonies for him in Sacramento for Oscar Robertson and Tiny Archibald.
Yeah, no, I think the Kings have done a lot of things right. That's another one, and because it is part of the franchise, obviously, for people like me, remember them in Cincinnati Royals. Now I can't go back to the Rochester
Seagrams. You didn't go to a lot of those.
Did not go to any of those, but I really followed the Cincinnati Royals, and then I was really up close and personal with the Kansas City Kings because I watched every practice and went to.
That's when you first kind of became connected with the franchise.
Yeah, I was a college division coach there in Kansas City, where at Rockhurst University, where a Jesuit school where the Kings practice site was. They didn't in those days. Teams didn't have their own practice facilities. They'd practice at colleges or somewhere like that. So it was really great for me, and that's the reason I took the job. I kind of wanted to be associated with it.
I thought of you yesterday. Maybe you saw this number, and it's true. And this is nothing against Domas. This is a fact, and he's not the one that noticed this. But Domas became the first Kings player, franchise history, since Oscar Robertson to go. I think it's 10-10-5 his first 4 games. That's true. Okay, but I looked it up. Obviously, Oscar wasn't going like 11-11 and 6.
No,
it was 37 points. 14 rebounds, 29 points.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different deal there. So technically 10-10-5, but Oscar was doing a lot more than that.
Yeah, you can always play that game to a degree. And it's a bonus to his credit.
That's right.
He fills the stat sheet as few big men do.
Right.
And he does it every night, which is even more impressive. But Oscar, like you say, Oscar didn't just fill it. He just gagged on it. I mean, it was like, say, 31 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds, from the guard position. So just dominant player.
Yeah. My hope is that we can get Jerry Lucas's number retired this year. But I don't know. It's not something that people care that much about, but I'm not giving up on that one, Jerry.
Well, it should be.
Yeah.
It absolutely should be.
One of the 75 best players.
Absolutely. If you're one of the 75 best, you ought to get your jersey up there.
Here's a number, just looking at some Kings numbers, not to get bogged down in stats, but this really jumped off the page at me. It's a number that I think the Kings don't get enough credit for. Right now, Jerry, the Kings are number 2, second best in the league in turnover percentage. So that, that number, it's not necessarily total turnovers, but given your possessions, they're second in the league at basically taking care of the ball, a team that does like to get out and push pace a little bit. I think that's a very impressive number.
It is. And because the way they play and as fast as they play, that's a real credit to the players and coaches. And I think you can maybe, to narrow it down a little bit, I think that Fox and Domas are controlling the ball a lot, and they have good assist to turnover ratios. And so that's kind of where it needs to start. And, so that's, the team's doing so many things well. It just start making your threes better and lot of good things can happen.
Yeah, and I know Kyle wasn't happy when I brought this up yesterday, and I don't know, maybe you would disagree as well, but I do think Malik, who is fabulous, and let's, pray that they bring him back next year. I think the last game or so, sometimes the fact that he hasn't played a lot of point guard, he gets a little overexposed. I think, he played a lot more point guard last year than we thought he would, and he's an excellent passer and distributor. I think, especially the last game, I thought he was over dribbling a little bit. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm nitpicking. But, he's not really a natural point guard.
He's not really a natural point guard, and I think, being put in that position, I think he tends to try to do too much.
Yes.
And, he's feeling like he has to, and he really doesn't. He's good enough to be productive just doing what he does. So, I would agree with you there. And I mean, he's and
he did save the game. I mean, he's against the Lakers. They don't win that game without him.
Obviously. No, he's sixth man of the year caliber for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hopefully they can bring him back next year. But you think the Kings are shooting too many threes? They just got to start making more, don't they? Kevin Huerter. This thing with Kevin Huerter, no one can question his effort, but he's got to start making shots. And Keegan got to start making more shots.
Yeah, I think they should shoot quite a few threes. I'm not too sure about what they don't shoot too many, to be honest.
Especially when they're not going in, right?
Yeah. I mean, what you want to do is get shots you can hit, and high percentage, like say with Fox in particular, late in games, well, he's getting the 10, 12-foot shots that he hits 80% of. Mm-hmm. Well, that makes more sense than a 33% three-point shot, and plus a better chance of drawing fouls. So, I think that the team could be a little more selective. And I think since I really think Keegan is looking too much for his shot, to be truthful. I know there's a lot of criticism. Well, he's got to shoot every time he's open. Well, I think he's shooting sometimes when he's not, and it's a tough shot. So
because he's feeling like he's being asked to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a selfish bone in his body. But he's like every other shooter. It's, he needs to be comfortable when he shoots it.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the defense he played on Steph Curry in the last game?
I thought it was terrific. I think we're seeing, just remarkable improvement from him as a basketball player. His defense, his aggressiveness, he's rebounding better. And I think you can see, under normal progression, as a player, he could be an all-star level player. I wouldn't, in a couple of years, if he the way he can shoot and play defense. So Kings. Man, they're going to be happy with him a long time.
Mm-hmm. And I think they got to be happy so far with the way Colby Jones has played. Right, he's not nowhere near I'm not saying he needs to get major rotational minutes, but given the fact that he was a second-round pick, and it seems like he's just unflappable, and it seems like they asked him to play a little bit against the Warriors. Whatever you need him to do, he's up for the task so far.
Sure seems that way. I'd said at the draft, I'd actually watched him with Xavier a good bit, and he's a real complete player.
Yeah,
it always reminded me, and I think there's, as it's turned out, maybe I was sort of right. He reminded me of Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh yeah,
and Brogdon was a second-round pick. People said, well, he's really good all around, but he's not really.
He was a rookie of the year, wasn't he?
Rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was Malcolm. I mean, he wasn't a great athlete, but a good athlete, and I think Kobe's the same way. Good athlete.
That's a good
that
one.
that has really the fundamental. He's sound.
Mm-hmm.
He's really sound. So you can plug him in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Very promising. Hey, when we come back, Jerry, I know you've been looking forward to talking about this. The in-season tournament.
I can't wait. I'm getting nervous thinking about it.
Well, tell you why the NBA is all in on the in-season tournament when the Drive Guys with Jerry and today come back on Sactown Sports.
All new spring deals are here at Lowe's. Start planting your garden this weekend with Bonnie 11.8-ounce vegetables. Buy 4 for $10. Plus, liven up your patios and decks with fresh blooms. Select 1.5-gallon hanging baskets or 2 for $20. Lowe's knows spring. Lowe's knows home improvement. Offers valid through 5/17. In-store only. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Trying to find out where to catch your favorite team's games?
Are you a fan of the Kings, Niners, and the NFL? Well, Sactown Sports has you covered.
Touchdown! San
Francisco! It's all on his shoulders. Cox rocks. He fires for the win. He's got the triple.
Catch all your Kings, Niners, and NFL games all year long on Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com.
For a business to thrive, there needs to be a constant stream of new customers. This happens through strong lead generation. Did you know that lead generation is one of the most important tools of any marketing campaign? Let us help you identify your target audience and market your products and services to them. To get started today, contact aimyourdigital.com. That's aimyourdigital.com and start seeing results today.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different? How? You sell high commission investment products, right?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our client's best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
KHTKAM Sacramento, KYMX HD2 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios, your home for the Oakland A's every weekend.
And is swung on line to left center, base hit, and the A's have won it on a walk-off line drive, base hit to left center.
Sactown Sports. The only station in Sacramento giving you local sports coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sactown Sports.
Appreciate Jerry Reynolds coming in off the bench, filling in for Kyle Draper, who's in Houston. You probably started your whole basketball career, right? Did you ever have to come off the bench, Jer?
Never.
Never, yeah. You're like Chris Paul. He's like, no, I'm not doing that.
No.
Although now he's doing that.
I was like James Harden. I was assistant.
Well, thanks for filling in for us here. It's a very special day for so many reasons. Chief among them, of course, is the fact that the NBA in-season tournament tips off tonight. The tournament games start tonight. The Kings still don't play one. Not that this is confusing at all, but the Kings don't have a tournament game until, I think, next Friday against OKC. But the tournament starts tonight. The Warriors-Thunder game tonight is a tournament game, and it's the only game tonight in the Kings group, which is Group C in the West. So you see, this stuff is very logical, and there's nothing confusing about it at all.
Oh, no. I think it'll be easy to follow. It will be for me because I won't follow it.
Not going to follow it.
No, I mean, I will follow it in a sense that each game counts on your regular season won-loss record. That's what it means to me.
Will this change your views of it? The head coach of the tournament's winning team will be awarded $500,000, same that already had been designated for the winning team's players.
Well, I'm okay with that. I mean, I certainly think if players get paid extra money, so should coaches.
Mm-hmm. Assistant coaches will share an additional pool of money that'll comprise 75% of the winning coach's total. So the league is just spinning over backwards to try to get everybody on board with this. And I think what it comes down to, I heard Stiles and Watkins talking about this today, and obviously they're selling jerseys, right? And that's a big part of it. But they've got a new TV contract coming up, and they're trying to find ways to make the property more valuable when it comes to TV negotiations.
Yeah, no, I understand why they're doing it and why they're trying. I'm not, whether it works or not. I was not a fan of the play-in tournament or play-in playoffs, and it's worked out very well. So I know I could be wrong, but I can tell you for sure I'm not going to have a lot of interest in it this year.
I'm with you, but there's a huge difference, as you know, when you have the play-in, right? Not the in-season, the play-in tournament all led to something. It was all about winning the championship. And this is supposed to be somehow important. when we all know that. It's just we're conditioned to know the regular season in the NBA is all about winning the championship. So this in-season thing, I mean, I guess it'd be nice for whoever wins it, but no one's going to remember, are they? I mean,
I don't think for very long. I mean, it's not some 5 years now. I'll say, boy, who won the mid-season tournament in 2023? I mean, it'd be one thing not going. As we've talked, I kind of equate it to the college Christmas tournaments.
Yes.
Everybody goes in, they want to win, and they win, and then nobody remembers, and because they're
it's a warm-up.
Yeah, it's a warm-up for the NCAAs.
Yeah. The NBA has been hopeful the in-season tournament can generate significant revenue in the next media rights deal, driving interest and viewership to buoy an increasingly, says they're staid or boring regular season. Good luck with that. So they're trying to get people more invested in the regular season, but it's still the regular season. Like you said, I think I'm with you on this. I'm trying to be open-minded about it, and I'll still be watching. But good luck. Another issue I have with it, Jerry, is I know some people that are football or soccer fans have pointed out to me that we have this in soccer. I think the commissioners even mentioned that, and people love it. But if I'm not mistaken, it could be, but I think one of the appeals of that is you have teams from different leagues that don't play each other.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're in the tournament, you got to play teams you don't normally play. Oh, well, that's kind of cool. Well, you're playing the same teams you always play in this tournament.
Yeah, and each game.
What are you deciding?
Yeah, and each game counts on the regular season.
Yeah,
it's it's almost self-defeating in that regard because it makes teams maybe the game's more important in the long run, but from a tournament schedule, I don't know that it does, and so I don't know. It's a stretch, I think, and we'll see. But I can't imagine getting too excited about it.
Mm-hmm. It's just probably not really going to matter much. I mean, I'm curious about when they get to Las Vegas for the Final Four, right? Again, we're still learning all this. I'll watch the championship game, but I don't know that it's really going to be, it'll be like, oh, that's an interesting basketball game. But ultimately, what does it matter who wins the in-season tournament?
Yeah, well, and I'm like you. I might be interested in the Final Four on a neutral site kind of thing, but I also know that soon an hour after it's over, it'll be ready to move on.
Yeah, because it's still secondary by leaps and bounds to who wins the NBA championship. So what are you even doing here? It's just kind of like a sleight of hand, like, look, this matters because we're calling it a tournament. And then the commercials are a little confusing because in the commercials they call it a single elimination tournament, but it's not because you have group play and then anyway.
Well, I
don't mean to be negative.
That's what you get when you work with Tony Soprano,
Yeah, there you go. That's Now, all that said, if the Kings were in the Final Four, would you be a little extra juiced about that?
Yeah, I would. I admit that. Yeah, if they're in the Final Four in Vegas, I'd be like, I know what I know and I realize, but I'd still be pulling for them because it's a win that goes in the regular season. And if they can win, that's a couple of wins, and as much thing, I'd like to see the guys make more money and the coaches make more money, especially assistant coaches.
Mm-hmm. And I would love to be dead wrong about this. I'd love from the jump tonight for everyone to say, "Man, this tournament is great." I'd love to be wrong. We'll see. I don't imagine that I am. What has jumped out to you about the regular season so far, especially in the West? I know we've talked about Wembanyama. Memphis is kind of surprising. Dallas is a surprise. I'm a little surprised by how quickly the Warriors seem to have gotten things together. What has jumped out to you so far?
Well, I think that there's two teams that have just jumped out that are better than I think I expected. Now, this is so early you can't really count much, but that'd be the Pelicans and the Mavericks. They're both, weren't expected to be playoff teams, but they're playing at a high. And, Zion's been great, and they're doing it without Brandon Ingram. So that's and certainly with Luka and Kyrie, it seems to be going pretty well. I don't like their roster at all, but then Luka's great, and he's been playing probably his best basketball. So we'll see where that goes. And then I think on the other end, as you mentioned, Memphis is just like they've just fallen off the face of the earth almost.
Right. And I thought they were going to be able to weather the games without Ja, because in the past they've done well there, but they're 0-5. And then you look at the top of the West. To your point, Jerry, Dallas 4-0, Golden State 4-1, Denver 4-1, Pelicans 4-1. That's top 4 spots right there. Lakers 3-2, Clippers 3-2. It's just, and we knew this would be the case. It's just for a team like the Kings, it's going to be a dogfight virtually every single night. Isn't it?
Every single night. Yeah, I mean, here again, injuries can always play so much, but when you look at the talent on these rosters, I mean, you just simply, it's going to be tough to win 48 games again. Very tough.
Do you think that the Kings are going to need at the deadline to bring in more talent because they don't have the superstars, as many of them, even if you include, Domas and Fox's stars, because they were all league. Kings don't have as many of them as some of these teams. Are they going to need a talent upgrade at some point this year in order to compete with the best teams in the West?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think if the way it looks to me is they need more talent than they have. They're a talented team, but if your goal is to be a serious contender in the West, I don't believe they have everything they need. Now, it's not saying they can't do it, and I certainly hope I'm wrong there too, by the way.
Right.
Now, that's the bad news is, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, we can trade this guy and then get this star player. Well, no, you can't. The other team has some control of that.
Yeah, you don't rob Peter to pay Paul Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, we could, you trade a couple of guys to get Wembanyama. Well, that's a good trade.
That would be a good trade.
But, somehow I don't think
that reminds me of the early days of the Kings here. And if you listen to you probably never listened to the talk shows because you work for the team, but we were naive fans, and you get calls like, I don't know why the Kings don't trade Ben Guillory and Michael Jackson for Elijah Wan. Things like that.
Well, I'd always got a kick out of it. I think about the first few years I was in the league, and I'd listen occasionally, and I always remember, the Kings, they need somebody when Ralph Sampson was good, before he had all the injuries, and they'd say, well, the Kings could trade these 4 or 5 guys because none of them are playing.
Right.
It's like, yeah. And why would Houston do that? Yeah. Let's trade 4 guys who really aren't any good and probably not as good as the guys sitting on the Houston bench.
Trade the guys that we don't need to another team for their best player.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. The thing about the NBA has always been, like most sports, it's quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
You can always find the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th man. The hard thing is find those 1s and 2s.
That reminds me, you were just telling me a couple of days ago the story where you were talking to Elgin Baylor, and you might not want to mention the player, I don't know, but you're trying to get him to interested in somebody you didn't want, and you were telling Elgin Baylor, hey, this guy was a 6th pick. And Elgin Baylor's like, I don't care, right? I don't care where he was picked.
Yeah, actually, I do. I was talking about it, and it was actually Joe Klein at that time. Because LaSalle Thompson was playing better, and so we're set there. And so we're looking into what the value Joe did have. And I said, yeah, well, Elton, he was a 6th pick. And Elton said, nobody cares about that anymore. And I knew it.
Right.
Hey. I thought, well, it might work.
Oh, well, yeah. So that's interesting. I find myself leaning that way too. And I found myself leaning that way, especially after the last couple of games where the Kings played really good teams and the Lakers and the Warriors. And I just feel like, man, the Kings don't quite have as much upper tier talent as some of these teams in the West. And if you know it, and if I have some inkling there, Monty McNair knows it, but it's just a matter of, but those guys don't grow on trees.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. Monty McNair knows it better than I do for sure. But, but it's hard to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's not a knock on what they have, the guys they have.
Because they've got some really good players, and then they've got a couple of guys they couldn't possibly trade. And then they have guys that they wouldn't want to, even as for a slightly better player because of youth or something else. So, I don't know what, basically it would come down to, probably having to trade 1st-round picks. And really with the Kings, I don't know that has much value anymore because they're a better team. It's when they're a lottery or something.
What about if, just spitballing here, things aren't going great for the Bulls? What if they decide to start selling off parts? What about a guy the Kings, I think, signed to an offer sheet a few years ago, Zach LaVine?
I'm not a big fan. I think he's a very talented player, kind of a selfish player.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get mine.
I was going to say ball dominant, but that's a more polite way of saying it.
Yeah. If you could, even in my mind, get somebody probably like a DeMar DeRozan, even though it's a short-term thing and not have to give up much due to his age and contract. I think in a short term, he would, he could make you better.
Yeah, I know a lot of fans in the summer were hoping the Kings could somehow end up with Kyle Kuzma. I don't know about you, but I'm very grateful they didn't end up with Kyle Kuzma.
I was never a huge fan. I think he's very talented. And,
right.
The guy, as I've talked before, the guy I really wanted was Naz Reid from Minnesota, because I thought he was a perfect fit, super athletic, tough, can make threes, and as a backup guy. And that's what he would have been here too, but was something the Kings didn't have. But Minnesota felt the same way.
Yeah,
and
they were listening to you.
They were listening.
Yeah, Jared likes that guy. We better keep him. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You want to weigh in, or if you have a question for Jerry today when we come right back, how big are the next 3 games for the Kings? That's next year. Drive Guys, Jerry in today, Sactown Sports.
Check out the Golf to Go Hour with Frank LaRosa every week on Sactown Sports. Get the latest on equipment, area courses, people who play the great game, and plenty of good conversations about golf. It's the Golf to Go Hour every week with Frank LaRosa on Sactown Sports. Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop, America's most awarded golf facility. Nature Wood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave letting you know Capital Casino, Sacramento's #1 poker room and primetime football location is back. Cap Casino giving away $500 per game in high hand bonuses for every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night primetime game, offering the best food, best service, and the best action with the most variety of games in the region and conveniently located in downtown Sacramento. Check it out, Capital Casino. And as always, please remember to gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
As always, thank you for being here on this wonderful Friday. So, Jerry, with the West looking as stacked as it is, as competitive as it is, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that even though it's early November, these next 3 games are big for the Kings. At Houston tomorrow, at Houston again Monday, then home to Portland. Would you agree? These are very important games for the Kings.
Oh, they are. I mean, they need to kind of get on the winning side of the ledger, and this is a great chance to do that. And then they've got a great home stand and really need to prove this year they can win home games, which that was the one flaw last year. So yeah, I think it's game time. Go win, go beat teams you should beat, and really that's the Houston twice and Portland fill that. I think Portland is probably about what I thought they were, and Houston is probably a little better than people thought they would be. So there's a little danger lurking there, that's for sure.
Last year, the Kings did a marvelous job of beating the teams they were supposed to beat. Now, that said, you may remember, they lost to the Wizards. They lost to Charlotte. They didn't win every game against bad teams. Chris had the number this afternoon. It was something like 26-8, or I forget exactly what it was. But for the most part, the Kings beat the teams they were supposed to beat. And that was absolutely key to their winning as many games as they did. That may seem obvious, but one of the most surprising things I've ever seen in sports, Jerry, a few years ago, I was working at what was the A's flagship. And in 2012, the A's weren't expected to do anything. And they won the division. And one way they did is every time they played like the Houston Astros, who were terrible, they beat the bejeebies out of them. And that's how they ended up winning the division. So that was an important part of what the Kings did last year. So here's an opportunity to do it again this year.
Yeah, it is. And that is a real key, obviously. Win your home games, beat the teams you're supposed to beat at a high rate, and you'll have a great record. Now, if it's a case of where you just win all your games against bad teams and never beat a good team, and you get in the playoffs, don't be surprised if you don't do well.
Right. Yeah, and I think Chris said last year the Kings were, I think, 4 under 500 against teams with winning records. So there's room for improvement there. But it's a tough situation here, maybe a bit of a conundrum, because De'Aaron Fox is talking, as he did yesterday, about, I could be back this weekend. You bring him back against the Rockets, risking additional injury, which could compromise his availability and his effectiveness down the road. You'd like to think you could beat the Rockets without him, right? Rest up. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, you would. And, and of course, so much of it depends on, what De'Aaron thinks and doctors and all. I know he wants to play, but unless he is, I'd say if you're feeling any pain or tenderness, don't play. At this stage of the year, if it was a third game in the playoffs, be different. If he wanted to play and there's some tenderness there, you'd say, well, if you wanted to go.
Boy, it sure looked bad when he twisted it, because you could tell how much pain he's in, and you know how tough he is. And I think, long story short, the Kings were pretty relieved that it wasn't a lot worse.
Yeah, it was amazing how he came back, and played well to get the Kings into the overtime. And then, of course, from that point on, just got worse and worse, stiffer. But I thought that it really showed a lot of character, a lot of toughness on his part, and desire to help in any way he could. So I think that's a real kind of a character move, and not that he needed that, but and anybody hadn't been paying attention, that should have been it. It's kind of like Domas last year playing with a fractured thumb,
right?
Not very many players do those things.
Right. That's one of the things that's so frustrating about this, is that a lot of the analysts during the offseason, they were saying the Kings won't be that good this year because they were so lucky last year with injuries. And as you pointed out, well, they had injuries last year. Guys just played through them. But now with Fox getting hurt early, those people are going, see, I told you, injury regression, it was bound to happen. And it's frustrating that maybe they were right about that, Jer.
Well, the Kings did have a great year in that regard. But like you say, if guys, like Domas, if he had taken 40 games off, then things would have looked very different.
Right.
And that is, to me, that's why this team is a little bit of a throwback to back in the 80s or something, when I first came to the league, when guys tried to find ways to get on the floor.
No. You mean they wanted to play?
They felt an obligation. That's like, wow, I don't know what's wrong with them, but that's, they said,
Yeah.
And I think that, Coach Brown and all the basketball staff has a lot to do with that. With the camaraderie the team has, chemistry, that helps, guys wanting to play.
Don't you think that was also one of the reasons they won the division last year, is you had a division where there were some older teams and guys were, making sure they were rested for the playoffs, and the Kings didn't do that. They just wanted to win those regular season games, and those wins added up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you had, a lot of veteran teams, we'll put it together at the playoffs. And of course, sometimes you can, most time you can't.
Yeah.
You flip that switch, but the Kings were pretty much focused in all year long. And they have been this year so far. They've won some close ones, lost some close ones. But there's no reason to believe they can't be better as a team.
A personal question, if I may, for how many years now have you been managing your load?
Probably a lot more here lately.
I know. Believe me, I know.
I can get my naps. It's serious stuff.
339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Steven joins us on Sactown Sports. Hello, Steven. You're on with Whitey and the great Jerry Reynolds. How are you?
I'm good, Whitey. How are you doing, my friend?
Good. What can we do for you today?
Jerry, you are a legend, and I always appreciate having the opportunity to speak to you, man. Whenever you're on these airwaves, man, it's always a pleasure. I had a trivia question for you. I actually wanted to challenge you and challenge your knowledge, because I'm only 34 years old, and you've had you have that and just basketball experience. So there was a season where the Kings had multiple players who were thirds. So, who, not a junior, not a second, they were a third. Can you name them and tell me the year?
Now, I don't know if I followed.
The third, I think, yeah,
Marvin Bagley is a third.
Yeah.
Harry Giles is the third.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
There was a year where I looked on the floor and there was at least 3 or 4, if not all 5 players on the court were all thirds, and I found that to be very odd. So yeah.
Wasn't Frank Mason? Wasn't he a third? Frank Mason the third?
I think Frank Mason was the third. So, but gosh, Stephen, you I give you your props, man. You may only be 34, but I couldn't think of a team.
That's who are
I believe it was the 2018-2019 season, and I think we had 3 of them. It was Marvin Bagley, Frank Mason, and Harry Giles.
Yes.
And I was trying to look around and to see if there was an additional one, and unfortunately, Basketball Reference, they don't mark down the third. It's just Marvin Bagley.
Gotcha.
So I wasn't able to find the other one. But yeah, I just wanted to challenge you a little bit, man.
Well, you won, Stephen. Yeah, I tell you what, you won, man. I would have never.
Thank you, Stephen.
But
hey, man, you're very welcome. I can never win. You're always a winner, Jerry. Don't ever give me that. Okay, I cannot take that evil, man.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Stephen.
that.
Yeah,
he kind of gave us half of the answer there when he mentioned Bagley.
That was something. I mean, of course. It's kind of become a little more common to have the third as part of the name. I guess I hope, and I don't expect to be alive when we start seeing 4s.
What is the difference? I think I know the difference between Gary Payton Jr. He's Gary Payton II. Is that because he's not named for his dad? He's named for like a grandfather or something. I think that's how you're the second rather than a junior. If it's just you're named after your dad or your mom, I think you could be a junior. But if there's a generation skipped, or if you're named for somebody else in the family, I think that's where you become the second or the third. But I could be wrong, and I've further confused you needlessly with
the only thing. Yeah, the only thing I know is that basically that's the way they used to do kings. King Louis,
right,
the first and then the second. The whole thing there. But it was always based on the father. So I when I first saw those things, I just assumed it's like when you're Frank Mason II, you'd been there'd been a junior, and so I don't know.
I don't know that either, but I do know that the Warriors have, is it 5 players right now whose dads played, and I've never seen that before because you got Steph, you got Wiggins, you got Peyton. You got Clay, and is it Trace? What's Trace something Davis?
Trace Jackson Davis.
Yes.
Yeah, his Dale Davis. Davis.
Dale Davis. I don't remember any team that had 5 sons of NBA players.
Yeah, that would. I'm sure that's got to be the current record. I mean, it's getting to the stage where we might see it a little more often. And by the way, Trace Jackson Davis is a nice 2nd-round pickup there.
Mm-hmm. He is a nice player. It just, you see that more and more with baseball players, guys whose dads played. And I just think they're so much more ahead of the game in terms of growing up around that and being in that environment.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I think, it's like a guy like Steph, grew up around it and being around arenas. So it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a shock to his system to
you don't
play.
Have the stars in your eyes so much.
Right.
It's like, I grew up with this. Yeah. It's like you said, like JaVale McGee. Growing up around here, hanging out with his mom.
Hanging his mom till I traded her.
When we come back, we're going to switch sports here a little bit because this is interesting. Why baseball says they're happy with the lowest World Series TV ratings ever. We got Ryan Hollins coming up today. We got Eddie Johnson. We got Mark Kreidler. When we come back, why baseball says they're happy with the lowest World Series TV ratings ever. Jerry Reynolds, Whitey Gleason, Sactown Sports.
Last season, the Sacramento Kings gave us a little bit of everything. A Pacific Division title, GM of the Year, Coach of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, All-Stars and All-NBA performers. Plus, we got to light the beam.
Here's a steal by Fox, the breakaway. He's got the rip with the left hand.
What does this season have in store? Find out. Each and every Sacramento Kings game can be heard right here on your proud home of the Beam team, Sactown Sports at SactownSports.com.
One of the things with running is I want to enjoy the run, but I never made it very far because the arches in my feet just killed me. So when I got to the end of my rope and I said I have to do something to get rid of the pain, and a couple people recommended the Good Feet store to me. I loved how I could go in and get a free personalized arch support fitting. They put that time, that work, that effort into helping you find the right arch supports. And you can walk around this store with these in your shoes and try them out before you purchase them. So after I got my arch supports, the arches on my feet stopped hurting and the pain instantly, literally instantly went away. So if you have pain, go. Find a Good Feet store and go. There is an answer. Find the simple solution that will get rid of your pain. I'm Rondi, and that's my Good Feet story.
See how Good Feet arch supports work for you before you buy with a free fitting and test walk at the Good Feet store. Knee, hip, foot, leg, or back pain? Visit the Good Feet store in Sacramento, Roseville, and Vacaville.
Cooler temperatures mean it's time to reduce your outdoor water use. Water 1 day per week on Saturday or Sunday from November 1st through February 29th. Learn more about your home's watering schedule at sacwaterwise.com. Ready for a sizzling football season? Take your game day parties to the next level with Napoleon Prestige Grills from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Fire up the grill and score big with mouth-watering burgers, juicy steaks, and finger-licking wings. Napoleon Prestige Grills bring the heat and come complete with a lifetime warranty. Get your ultimate game day companion today. Visit your local Green Acres Nursery and Supply and elevate your tailgate experience with Napoleon Prestige Grills. Green Acres Nursery and Supply, your one-stop shop for grilling greatness this football season. Visit idategreenacres.com for the store near you. Game on!
Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Hey, small business owner. Are you ready to have the best year ever in 2024? When's the last time you checked your workers' comp rate? For many small businesses, workers' comp insurance is one of their biggest costs. But Pi Insurance could save you up to 30% in just 3 minutes. Go to trypi.com, share a few details about your business, and get a quote that's customized for your business. No hassles or hidden fees. We know you're busy, but spending just a few minutes to check your rate could make this your best year ever. Plus, when you sign up for pay-as-you-go billing, your premium is based on your actual payroll, not an estimate. So your workers' comp audit experience is simplified. See how much you could save with Pi Insurance. Ask your agent for Pi or get a quote at trypi.com. That's trypie.com.
At aimyourdigital.com, we'll help you find the right customers, spread awareness of your product or services. We can help build trust in your brand and services with a digital marketing campaign, increase leads, and get more customers. We create tailored digital marketing campaigns that deliver results. Don't wait. Get started today. Contact aimyourdigital.com. That's aimyourdigital.com and start seeing results.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head, and the total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com. The Drive Guys powering your afternoons Monday through Friday on Sactown Sports.
We got Jerry Reynolds with us today. Jerry and I were just briefly kicking around some 49er talk. Emil Fragoso joining us in the 4 o'clock hour with more on the 49ers. Jerry, you're pointing out that that 49er defense ain't what it was cracked up to be.
Yeah, that's the thing that's probably surprised me, disappointed me the most. I mean, I just assumed they'd be great there and could always put pressure on the quarterback. And Kirk Cousins was under no pressure, and Joe Burrow was under no pressure. And it's like I always said, that the quarterback's like a point guard. You give them all kinds of space and room, they'll find open people.
You got to put pressure on the basketball. You definitely got to put pressure on the quarterback, right? Or you
Exactly.
got no chance. Yeah, and the 49ers thought they had that. And now we'll see what Chase Young is able to give them in that regard. Did you watch the World Series at all, Jer?
Just a little, not much, to be honest with you. It's
and you are the all-time highest batting average second baseman in high school history of Indiana?
No.
Oh.
Just my own high school.
Your own high school, okay.
My own high school,
But still,
which was a terrible baseball program. And so you don't want to put any stock in any of those stats. I mean, they're stats.
Your brother was a crackerjack catcher and hitter as well, right?
He was an excellent catcher, couldn't hit a lick. Could not hit a lick. It was just, you might as well just passed him, say he's out.
Would they have DH'd for him if they had DH'd?
Oh, no question. Yeah. No. Well, I don't know, because really almost nobody could hit. I mean, I always say Indiana baseball, it's not a pretty thing.
I have to be honest, when I was playing was this sophomore baseball at Hogan High School, Vallejo, and I hadn't played a lot of baseball, and I wouldn't have a good year with a stick, but I could feel my position. And so there was one game where I was playing third, and they DH'd for me. And I have a friend, and I was asking, the great John Dickinson, I asked him once, I said, would you think less of me if I told you that once in high school I played third and they DH'd for me? And he looked at me and he said, I would I would think less of you. So anyway, that's the truth.
No,
hardest thing to do in sports, right? Supposedly.
It really is. Well, I've told you a story about working. One of the thrills of my life was working Hank Aaron's summer league sports camps.
Yeah.
And then on days off, he'd have about 1 day out of the 2 weeks, and he'd come up to the camp in North Georgia and, meet the kids. And of course, I'm lucky enough to meet him and everything. And then he'd get in the batting cage. And I mean,
oh my goodness.
Oh my, it's just one of those deals you say, oh, now I see, it's like watching great PGA golfers hit and the sound of it.
That's it. I was going to say
same thing. It's like every ball was hit on the nose, just ripped.
Yeah. That guy in there, Jay, phenomenal baseball player.
Is that right?
Yeah. University of Texas, I think. Is that right?
Wow.
Yeah. University of Texas.
Yeah. That's a great baseball program. Yeah.
Yeah. So World Series rating, speaking of Texas Rangers, hey, they finally won for the first time in team history, the World Series. But the ratings were the worst, or the lowest, I'll say, the lowest ever. Nielsen and Fox said Thursday the World Series averaged 9.11 million viewers, and that's less than the 9.79 million average for the 2020 series. That was the Dodgers over the Rays. Remember, that was a pandemic year when they didn't even play a full season. 23% decline from last year's series when the Astros beat the Phillies in 6 games and averaged 11.78 million. That was just last year. The thing is, I think baseball at this point, they're like, yeah, what are you going to do? I don't even think they're really that disappointed. Baseball says they had the highest ratings during those nights for any entertainment program. And they said if they can do that and if they get a long series, they're happy. They didn't get a long series, but they just don't expect to have very high ratings anymore for the World Series.
I guess. I mean, you can't make me believe they're not disappointed. And I think the game, the rules they put in really has helped the game, but a lot of people have just sort of turned away from it. And then I know, like myself, occasionally I'd say, well, I could never remember what channel it was on.
Well, in the postseason, yeah, when it was on TBS or TNT or ESPN or Fox, it was.
Yeah.
It's like, baseball, I'm trying. No one wants to watch you. I'm trying to watch.
Yeah.
And I can't figure it out.
Yeah, if you're going to be on one network, it makes it better. Well, anyway, so it's a bit disappointing, I think, for baseball. It's kind of like NASCAR's went the same way, just straight down in the last 10 years.
But I have to think if baseball really did care about the ratings, they wouldn't, for example, start the World Series on a Friday night. I was talking to Gary Gerald out there because that was the night of the Kings home opener against the Warriors and the World Series was starting. We're like, wait, game 1 of the World Series on a Friday? What are they doing? Again, I think they realized this is bad, but it's the best we can do. We don't really care.
In some ways, I kind of think they almost go back to the 50s and play their games in the daytime.
Oh, that would be great.
You know,
I would like
I
that.
think you wouldn't get less of an audience, and you might
Mhm.
even get more. And anyway, that's old school all the way there.
Yeah, I also, me personally, I just think the playoffs now, they just last so long, playing into November when you played 162 games, and maybe I'm just, steeped in the way it used to be, and maybe I have to change with the times, but that's too many games in the postseason. If you're going to play 162 games, what do those games mean if you're starting everything over and you got so many teams in the playoffs? I don't know.
Yeah, and listen to some baseball experts, which I kind of agree with them. It's like, well, to play the 162 game schedule, you build your roster a certain way, and that lead helps you win the 105 games or so
Right.
far. But then time you get to playoffs,
Yeah.
it's maybe not about starting pitching as much as relief pitching and depth of the
Mhm.
pitching staff as opposed or so forth. And so all those things kick in, and then you get days off that you wouldn't get in the regular season.
mhm.
So a team really can rest their stars, pitchers.
But Jerry, I used to feel like, what are they doing? They're so dumb. Baseball doesn't understand. And I really do think now they do understand. And I'm not sure the people that run baseball, a lot of them I don't think really like baseball. I don't think they really care. They feel like, we're making money on this. This is the best we can do. Oh well, this is where we are. How about this? I don't agree with this. A guy from Fox said it's a good thing for the health of baseball to have new pennant winners and new champions, new teams playing in the World Series. You don't want to be the same market and the same brands every year. I know a lot of people agree with that. To me, I mean, it's one thing if you have like one team in the World Series that's an upstart, but you got to have like your Dodgers and your Yankees. I think people are more interested in it that way.
Oh, I do too. I mean, I think it's always been that way when you've had basically, because fans, the Yankees, you might love them, you might hate them, but you
care.
You care.
Yeah.
Or, going back to UCLA basketball back in the wooden days. I mean, or the Dukies more recent.
Right.
Well,
it's a strong brand.
A strong brand. And, so I think that makes all the difference. And I think, no, I think it's just the opposite. I think, who wouldn't? I mean, if the Dodgers were playing the Yankees, say this year, or Boston, I guarantee the ratings would probably be twice what they were.
Yep. I wouldn't be surprised. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Rob joins us on Sactown Sports. Hey, Rob, you're on with Whitey and Jerry Reynolds. What's up?
Hey, guys. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Happy Friday.
Good, Rob.
Okay. Happy Friday, Whitey. I'm glad you're back on the air. You're doing a great job with your team there. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and Jerry Reynolds, the legend. Good to talk to you, sir. Been following you for a long, long time.
I've been around a long, long time.
You have. You did a great job here. And I wanted to just do a shout out real quick, Whitey, on Bruce Bochy. We kind of just skimmed over him. Hey, it's the worst World Series ever watched, and yada, yada. I heard you say the Rangers have never won a World Series ever until this guy took the managerial reins. I mean, he brought the first World Series to the Giants and then two more. So, I mean, just a legendary manager in his Padres. So I wanted to call in as a lifelong San Francisco Giants fan, obviously Bruce Bochy, and I'm thinking, man, well, what a legend. What a manager. So just shout out Bruce Bochy and great job. And baseball's kind of boring, our attention span nowadays and things, but we'll still love the game and catch it when we can. And obviously when the Yankees or Red Sox or Giants and Dodgers are in it, it's going to be better with, instead of Diamondbacks, Rangers. But shout out Bruce Bochy. Let's go Kings. Light the beam. Let's have a great season. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Rob. I'm glad you brought that up. Boch is the best. I mentioned that Mark Kreidler is going to come on the show a little bit, and Boch and Mark Kreidler. Boch was a player. Mark Kreidler covered him, and working with Mark, there were times when we would try to get Boch on, and sometimes it wasn't convenient for Boch, but because he knew Mark, he would always come on because he's a great manager, but a really good guy too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really good guy.
He's one of those guys rare, as a pointed out, I mean, he's won world championships 2 different places. Well, that shows you the value of a manager. It does make a difference. The Sparky Andersons or Tony La Russas. I mean, they go different places.
Both leagues. Both those guys and Boch won in both leagues.
Yeah, I mean, and almost invariably the teams, even if they're not championship, they get better. And so You know, there's clear, it's not analytics, it's leadership sometimes.
Here's a piece of trivia. Bruce Bochy is the first guy to win a World Series for a team that he had beaten in the World Series, because 2010 Giants beat the Rangers, and now Boch winning a World Series with the Rangers. No one else had ever done that before, for what that's worth. So there you go, Rob. When we come back, have you been following this Raiders saga at all? The Raider coach?
Yeah.
Will the next coach of the Raiders be Jim Harbaugh? Why that could be trickier than it sounds when we come right back with Jerry Reynolds in today. It's a Drive, guys, on Sactown Sports.
Last season, the Sacramento Kings gave us a little bit of everything. A Pacific Division title, GM of the Year, Coach of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, All-Stars and All-NBA performers. Plus, we got to light the beam.
Here's a steal by Fox, the breakaway. He's got the rip with the left hand.
What does this season have in store? Find out. Each and every Sacramento Kings game can be heard right here on your proud home of the Beam team, Sactown Sports at SactownSports.com.
It's the model year-end sales event at Acura of Stockton. Elevate your driving experience with a vehicle that's built to impress. Lease a new Acura RDX or MDX. Acura of Stockton has a great selection of new Acuras and customer service that will exceed your expectations. Take luxury to a whole new level in a new Acura from Acura of Stockton or AcuraofStockton.com, where precision-crafted performance is at your fingertips.
Guys, did you know your testosterone level impacts your energy, libido, sleep, weight, hair loss, mood, and even ED? And right now, Revive Men's Health Sacramento will check your testosterone for free. They've helped thousands of men since 2011 feel and perform better. They're so confident they can help you, they even guarantee it. Schedule your free testosterone test, exam, and consultation today. Call 916-277-8599. That's 916-277-8599. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Carmichael Dave here for Jiffy Lube, your proud sponsor of the Drive of the Game. Now listen to every Kings game for Gary Gerald's Drive of the Game call, then listen to Jason and myself the next morning for a chance to win a $100 Jiffy Lube certificate, courtesy of all the Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area. Get your vehicle ready for the holiday driving season at Jiffy Lube today. Oil changes, wiper blades, tire rotations, and more. For more information, go to jiffylube.com.
Want the best movie experience in town? Join Sactown Sports' IMAX Pass by visiting SactownSports.com and sign up today. You can win tickets to see this week's film at the Esquire IMAX Theater.
The San Francisco 49ers.
Sactown Sports.
Emil Fragoso joining us next hour here, Drive Guys, with Jerry in today. Emil with the latest on the 49ers. Big week for the 49ers. But did they do enough? We'll see what Emil thinks. And I think 49er fans could use a week off, Jerry, to just, last few weeks have been rough. Just a week off to kind of regroup and then get back at them next week against the Jags.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but it's the NFL and a lot of good teams. Everybody gets beat, the Niners still could be the world champions. I mean, and I think fans should keep at. They clearly could be, as could 7 or 8 others.
Sure. It's just so discouraging when the 49ers get off that 5-0 start and look like, well, they're certainly one of the best teams, if not the best team. And then the last 3 weeks, like, what happened? Are they the same team? I think it's a matter of injuries, and then everything started snowballing. They can't run the ball, and they can't stop the run. And that's what the 49ers do. So I think there's been kind of an identity crisis with the team and with their fans lately.
Oh, I agree. They're my second favorite team, so I watch them all the time. And I just really thought probably the most talented team in the league, what little I knew. But I knew they didn't have a Patrick Mahomes on their side, but which makes a huge difference.
Jerry's a Chiefs fan. You probably know that.
Yeah, well, I can't help it. As I've said, I lived in Kansas City for 9 years, and I've always been a front runner. So it just makes perfect sense.
Now, isn't your son also a Chiefs fan?
Oh, he's just a true one, and he's actually really likes them when they're bad.
Really?
Yeah, I turn on him. So.
That's right.
So no,
you don't have time for that.
No, he's an actual fan. Huh. I come and go.
Depending on, are they winning? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'm on board. The Chiefs and Raiders, is that even really a strong rivalry anymore? It used to be one of the hottest rivalries in sports.
Yeah, certainly used to be the rivalry. Really, they truly hated one another, and probably some good reasons. But
it's kind of a shell right now.
I
Right?
would
It's like,
think so.
Hey, that used to be a rivalry. It doesn't feel the same.
I'm sure. The Raiders would like to think it is, but I'm pretty sure the Chiefs. Yeah, let's go play the Raiders.
Mm-hmm. The Raiders, of course, firing their head coach this week. There's been some speculation that when Mark Davis starts looking for a head coach, presumably he's already started looking. Jim Harbaugh, who used to be a Raiders assistant, could be a realistic candidate. It's interesting. I just mentioned this to Jerry, and Jerry said he's probably right. He said, "What'd you say? You said he's about Jim Harbaugh and the Raiders? He's too smart."
Yeah, I said I think Jim's too smart for that. I don't think he'll do that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back to the NFL at some point. Although I think he'd be wise to stay where he is, and contend for championships at Michigan. But I think the Bears, where he played at some point, are going to make another run at him.
He is just, at least in terms of doing interviews, he's one of the most unusual guys I've ever interviewed. And maybe some of that is just I didn't ask him the right questions. But I remember one time I was asking him, as I told you a moment ago, I asked him something like, do we not appreciate the importance of special teams yardage? And he said, I don't know, do you or not? And like that was like, okay, coach. Yeah. So he's just not always the most cooperative interview. And I've heard other guys interview him and they've had similar issues with him. So kind of a strange duck when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the great coaches, kind of find a real joy in that a little bit, like Bill Belichick, Popovich, Greg Popovich. He's got a little bit of that, just jerking everybody's chains because they can.
Yeah, I think some of it is trying to make you earn it, which is okay. That's fine. But anyway, it could be more complicated than you think. If Jim Harbaugh is interested, you're right. There's a good chance he's not. But here's the thing. 2 league executives and 2 high-level NFL agents Wednesday, each posing some version of the question that will orbit Harbaugh and the Raiders. And here's what people are wondering. If the NCAA investigation leads to sanctions against Harbaugh, would Roger Goodell step in and uphold those sanctions on the NFL level? In other words, if the NCAA says with the sign stealing and everything, you crossed the line, it was illegal and it was wrong, would Roger Goodell punish the team that hired Harbaugh? Because I think they actually did this years ago, 2011, with Jim Tressel when he left Ohio State and was hired by the Colts. So I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't, but I'm just saying a lot of people look at that and go, Roger Goodell could actually step in and uphold sanctions on the NFL level if somebody hired Harbaugh.
I don't think it makes sense personally. I didn't in the Tressel stage either. It's like, he was punished by the NCAA. Well, okay, he's not in the NCAA. He's in the NFL. And with Harbaugh, of course, the Harbaugh thing, I know I'm going to take another stance on this. Like, in trouble for scouting? That's really what we're talking about. It's like, they say stealing signals. Well, that's what probably every other coach is doing, but we don't know about it. They should be doing it. In every other sport, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Steal signals and plays and stuff. I mean, as a former scout as well, that's what you really were looking for. You went to see a team play, say, that's a signal for this play or that play.
Is it different in college, JR, though?
Well, it shouldn't. I don't think it is. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't maybe do more of it, but and they do. I think they do have some kind of a rule, which makes no sense. That's my point. Is like, wait a minute, you got these multi-million-dollar programs, and you don't want your teams to be able to scout one another? I mean, are you kidding me? You think they couldn't sneak into a 90,000 seat stadium?
It's incumbent then upon any team to make sure that they're not doing things that other teams can pick up.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And so what you're telling me is you need to indict yourself. I always said, like when I was a coach in junior college, it's like, well, you could do, they had rules, but they had no apparatus for punishment, no investigator. So only way you get in trouble is you turn yourself in and give them the evidence.
Well, I'm suggesting is that it's not, if Jim Harbaugh and his staff, if they were scouting or stealing signs, it's not their fault. It's whoever they were stealing signs from, allowing them to do that. You gotta have your house in order to the point where it's not so easy to steal your signs.
That's what I think. Yeah. I mean, it's like in baseball. Well, you're trying to get what the signals are, and that's why they have variations to keep you from stealing their signs. And then in basketball, I know for years, you had different ways trying to cover what plays were, and then you'd make adjustments as the year went because people knew them so well. Then you try to make adjustments.
I remember when I was first covering Kings games, and I remember sitting behind I think Kevin Lockery coached the Miami Heat at one point.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there, and you guys would run a set, and as soon as you ran in your set, he was telling the team, "Hey, it's going to Wayman." Of course, it went to Wayman a lot.
Yeah,
but they knew as soon as you went into your set, everything that you're going to run.
Yeah, that's how I always say that's why any good team or any team over a period of time, they're going to scout you. You're going to have to do some things different, and it's like now the Warriors know the Kings can do something different on Steph. They'll be a little better prepared for it. But I always remember the time Scott Skiles was a point guard for the Magic, and an Indiana guy, knew him pretty well. And we were playing, and he was yelling at me. He said, "Hey, Rodney McRae doesn't know that play," and I said, "No, he messed up. Why don't you tell him how to run it?" and Scott said he did. And, so he of course he was, I always say he was just a brilliant little player, tough-minded, but he knew our plays better than our guys did.
Didn't you one time try to run a play for LaSalle Thompson, and he kept messing it up?
It's funny. LaSalle's the best guy ever, and he was kind of wanting a little more, attention to himself.
Want a couple touches.
Yeah, Eddie gets shots, Reggie gets shots. I'd like to have it. So we put a play in for him, called it Texas, which would be where he's from, or played college. And so we start off the game with it, and he messed it up. And then so
a play for him.
Yeah. And then we ran it again. He messed it up again. and I remember calling timeout, and Tank says, "I don't want any more plays. I don't want any plays."
Was Eddie on that team?
Yeah.
I wonder if Eddie will remember that.
I wonder if he will.
Yeah. Eddie Johnson says he's going to join us in the next hour. Coming up, Emil Fergoso of Sactown Sports 49er Insider. Ryan Holland still to come. Mark Kreidler. And we got Jerry Reynolds rest of the afternoon here to drive guys on Sactown Sports.
All new spring deals are here at Lowe's. Start planting your garden this weekend with Bonnie 11.8-ounce vegetables. Buy 4 for $10. Plus, liven up your patios and decks with fresh blooms. Select 1.5-gallon hanging baskets or 2 for $20. Lowe's knows spring. Lowe's knows home improvement. Offers valid through 5/17. In-store only. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Avoiding foods due to fear of diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools? It may not be just stomach issues. It could be EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. EPI can cause uncomfortable symptoms because it's a condition where the pancreas doesn't release enough digestive enzymes to break down food. But EPI can be managed. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor about your symptoms. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It's time to trade in and trade up at Northern California's #1 Honda dealer, Stockton Honda. Whether you're shopping new or pre-owned, Stockton Honda has the selection and savings. Plus, get top dollar for your trade. Come in today or go to StocktonHonda.com. It's all a click away.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
Claim based on 2022 total new and Honda certified pre-owned vehicle car sales from American Honda Motor Company's own one report.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave letting you know Capital Casino, Sacramento's #1 poker room and primetime football location is back. Cap Casino giving away $500 per game in high hand bonuses for every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night primetime game, offering the best food, best service, and the best action with the most variety of games in the region and conveniently located in downtown Sacramento. Check it out. Capital Casino. And as always, please remember to gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Can the Niners build off their NFC Championship appearance from last season? How will the quarterbacks perform throughout the year?
Purdy back, now going to throw for the end zone, wide open, Brandon Ayuk is on fire!
Will the defense lead this squad again?
Intercepted! Ball got tipped up and taken by Fred Warner!
Get all your 49er coverage throughout the NFL season on Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios, KHTK-AM Sacramento, KYMX HD2 Sacramento, the only station in Sacramento giving you local sports coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Sactown Sports.
Oh, it's a Friday with the Drive Guys. What are the Drive Guys? Kyle's in Houston. Get ready for the Kings and the Rockets tomorrow, but the legendary Jerry Reynolds is with us. Interesting. Earlier, someone asked, we get questions for Jerry. Someone asked, who's your favorite player that you ever coached? And you said Eddie Johnson, right?
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, real pro's pro, no question.
So Eddie Johnson now, of course, great NBA player and shooter, now broadcaster for the Sun. So we texted him, and Eddie's going to join us this hour as well. So,
oh, wow, great.
Yeah, we'll see if he
he's an outstanding broadcaster. He would have been a good coach, by the way. He, no question, would have been a good coach.
There's a lot of guys on that team that ended up coaching or would have been good
Mike
coaches.
Woodson, Larry Drew, Reggie Theus, all coached. And I think Eddie might have been the best.
Yeah. So right now, nice enough to join us here. Brought to you by Timber Creek Golf Course. Visit timbercreekgolfcourse.com to book your tee time today. Our Sactown Sports 49er insider, the one and only Emil Fragoso. Emil, how are you today? Happy Friday.
Good. How are you guys doing today? Good to see you, Jerry.
Nope, we're not hearing Emil. We don't have Emil here. Yeah. We'll get Emil Fragoso.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I think he's shy about you being here, Jared.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Emil, we go way back, man.
Yeah. Hey, Emil, can you hear us, sir?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
You can't hear you. Thank you.
sir.
Thank you. Happy Friday. Was that it? You were kind of nervous being around Jerry again?
You know, Jerry, you're one of my childhood heroes, honestly. So it is an honor to talk to you, sir.
Well, that is very kind of you, and I know that you need to get better heroes.
Hero, wow. A hero. Hey, Emil, I know that the 49ers have the bye week, but did they do enough at the deadline this week and Chase Young to turn this thing around?
I think they did enough to turn it around. I would have liked to personally seen them do a little bit more, though, Whitey. I think if they added a nice starting corner as well as another rotational guard or tackle to shore up that offensive line that's also had some struggles as well. It's not just defense for the Niners. Offensively, they haven't been able to run the ball. And I think that stems from not getting the push up front for their offensive line. Spencer Burford, their second-year player, hasn't been doing as well as last season, and Aaron Banks is now out for a few weeks with that turf toe. So they're gonna have some offensive line issues to figure out. And at cornerback in their secondary, that's been a big weakness for them the last couple of years. So that'd been great if they added another, Kenny Moore from the Indianapolis Colts. If they got Jalen Johnson from the Bears, have been great too. But adding Chase Young, I do think helps them and will give them that push to get back on track.
Now, do you think that they were trying to do more and that just either, it takes two to tango, or that just the price tag on some of these guys that they would have liked to have acquired was maybe too high?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of all that, Whitey, honestly, because there was that tweet from Tim Kawakami that did say they were working on an additional deal to get done. I do think that was a thing. We kind of got a little fooled there by Adoree Jackson, the New York Giants there, but I do think they were trying to get Jalen Johnson. Now, the kicker was that Jalen Johnson, 24 years old, leaving his rookie deal, wanting a maximum extension. Now, what does that mean? $17 million or more per year. The Niners can't really afford to give a cornerback that kind of money. Already paying Javarius Ward a good amount of money per year. So to get him, it would have taken a lot, and they would have had to give up a second-round pick or even higher is what I've kind of gotten the notion of there. So I don't think the Niners are willing to part with that high of draft compensation. I think the Niners' philosophy has always been get the right players, but at the right price. And Chase Young just came at the right price to that comp 3 pick.
You said the kicker, and you reminded me that Robbie Gould now he's kicking with an NFL team, not necessarily signed, but I understand Robbie Gould's working out for an NFL team. Is that true, Emil?
Yeah, about 24 hours ago, there were reports coming out of the New York Giants that Robbie Gould, longtime 49ers kicker, was kicking in a kicking competition. And while he did not win it, they ended up signing someone else. I believe it was either Randy Bullock to their practice squad and one more as well. Robbie Gould wanting to continue the career at age 40, and it's amazing to see. He was so accurate with the Niners, and it's unfortunate that they weren't able to re-sign him. They wanted to go in a different direction. I know Robbie wanted to come back, and if Jake Moody stays inconsistent because he's only hit 80% of his kicks this year, maybe they can give him a call later. I don't know, but it's just nice to see Robbie Gould at age 40 still kicking.
Yeah, it seems to me like he's a guy that was really a clutch guy.
Absolutely.
That somebody in this league could, whenever a game comes down to a field goal with 2 seconds left, you'd kind of like to have a guy that you know is going to make it.
That's kind of surprising that he didn't get the job, that he got beaten out there, Emil.
Maybe he's starting to show some old age at age 40. I don't know. I mean, it's all downhill from here, right?
When is Trent Williams back? Do we have any idea?
We don't know a clear indication from the Niners. They haven't said, but my indication is that he's going to be back at practice this week. He was trying to get in some work off the side the end of last week, and he was seen on the field. I watched him a little bit in pregame before the Bengals. He was moving around pretty well, moving pretty active, so I do think his ankle is shoring up, and the Niners are just kind of playing these injuries. Same with Deebo Samuel, more cautious than trying to rush him back right now. It's the middle of the season, it's going into week 10 now for them. They have a long journey. They want to play a 22-game season, and that means going deep into January, and that's what this is about for them, is making sure all of their guys are healthy for the playoffs, not just the regular season. So they can afford to rest a couple guys. I know they've lost a couple games, but in their minds, it's better to have them healthy later on than right now.
Doesn't it seem weird, though, Emil? I know that you could look at this and say, hey, this is the time of year when the 49ers really go on a run, but they're doing it backwards this year. Typically, they start slowly, and then they gain momentum. This year, they started out so quickly, and now they're in a situation where nothing's going right. It's a lot more daunting and a lot more, I think, 49er fans are a lot more anxious than they typically are, even though the last couple of years, the record has not been this good at this time of year.
I think they're more so anxious because it is the flip-flop, but the Niners historically have not been great in October under Kyle Shanahan. Even last year, weeks 5 through 7, they lost 2 of those 3 games, one of those to Atlanta and then to the Chiefs at home before the bye week. And then right after that, they go on, a nice little 15-game win streak into the playoffs with Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo under center. I mean, this Niners team is built on resilience, and they're kind of determined to do that again, but it's coming after having their best start since the early in the 90s, honestly. And that's what's so weird about it, is that the Niners were this unbeatable team. We're talking about, are they the best team of the decade? Can they rival the Ravens of the 2000s? And now 3 weeks later, can they just stop a first down? Can they just not let 300 yards?
That's kind of where we're at. Yeah. Now, Emil, would Jerry Reynolds still be your hero if you knew that he was a Kansas City Chiefs fan?
See, Jerry, that's hard because I grew up an Oakland Raiders fan.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard for me.
Well, no, I understand. Yeah, but you got to admit, growing up as a Raiders fan, there really is no rivalry anymore.
That is very true. Very, very true.
Hey, Emil, this may be a stretch, but I'm concerned about the 49ers. And I was remembering what Bill Belichick did to basically the same offense. Sean McVay and the Rams in the Super Bowl was that Super Bowl 53.
Yes.
And Bill Belichick figured it out and shut it down. Are some NFL teams now finally learning that lesson? Are other coordinators learning how to slow down this offense?
I do think with more tape, it's more available to slow down, younger quarterbacks like Brock Purdy. And that's kind of been the thing with the Niners and their offense, is that they're trying to figure that out. And they're trying to, beat them, to put the pressure on Brock Purdy. And then on defensively, they're just going short game, short screen passes, getting the ball out quick. Similar to how kind of the Niners play. They're kind of giving them a taste of their own medicine a little bit on the defense. So there is a lot more tape on these players. And I do think the loss of a couple of position coaches has hindered them a little bit this year, but I still think that they're talented and they still have all the same talent. It's just about execution because they know how good they can be. It's just, can they put it on tape every single week?
What, in your opinion, is a degree of blame that honestly and fairly can be placed on Steve Wilks? It's easy when things aren't going well to blame the new guy. Yeah. And obviously something's wrong. How much of it do you think is, if not his fault, just the fact that there's adjustments being made both by the players and by him?
You know, I'd say about 50-50 blame on the coach and then the players. I do think Fred Warner said something really interesting after Week 8's loss. He said coaches don't win games, players do. And that's true. But at the same time, you have to scheme up your guys into the right positions. And I think Steve has had a hard time marrying the back end, the back seven, with the front four and just kind of getting the right coverage and the right time to blitz and whatnot. How do you go from Week 7 calling the cover zero blitz in the first half to barely blitzing Joe Burrow and the Bengals? It's just they're trying to figure this defense out on the fly because it's with new people, with the new coordinator. And Steve Wilkes is more of a secondary coach, not even, a linebacker like Robert Saleh or D'Amico Ryans was. So pressure isn't his instinct. So it's just trying to figure out what is best for them. And that may come with a change down to the field. We don't know. We'll figure that out afterwards. But I do think Steve Wilkes is still a very talented coach.
No, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I know that the last two coordinators were on the field. Saleh was on the field. D'Amico Ryans was on the field. Steve Wilkes would rather be in the booth. So now some people are saying, oh, he's got to be on the field. I don't see how that makes any difference. If that's where he wants to be because he says he wants to focus on what he's doing, I don't care that the last two guys were on the field. To me, there are many issues with the 49ers. That, to me, is a non-issue.
I think it could actually help them, Whitey. I'm going to disagree a little bit because I do think – I don't know if you watched Pittsburgh, Tennessee last night on Thursday Night Football. If you didn't, don't worry. You didn't miss much.
Everybody watched that, yeah.
Yeah. But they brought Matt Canada, the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator, down from the booth as well. They brought him from the booth to the sideline, and they won the coin toss and did not defer. They wanted to go on offense first. What they do, go down and score a touchdown on the first possession. Matt Canada was fired up, pumping up his guys. So maybe having the coach on the sideline gives you an extra bit of boost. I know Steve Wilkes, we asked him when he took over and said he was going to do the booth. We asked him why, and he goes, because I get a little too into it on the sideline. So I think he does have that fire that get the guys riled up the other coaches have done in the past. I just think that he's tried to contain himself and hold himself back a bit, which I don't really get. Like, if you're going to be Steve Wilkes, the great defensive coach, be Steve Wilkes, and that comes with the fire and energy, then let's do it.
All right. I don't know. That's kind of Harry high school stuff to me, but whatever works. Maybe you're right. Do 49er fans, Emil, have to root for Dallas this week?
No, they have to root for Baltimore because Baltimore's playing in Seattle. That's
okay. Who they have to root for. That's an easy one. But with the Eagles and Cowboys, what are 49er fans? Who do you root for in that one?
And Eagles, it's tough. It's no one you root for a tie, frankly. I say you root for a tie. You're not rooting for a win for anyone. The game I think that they should be more focused on. There's a lot of really good games this weekend.
Yeah, there are.
Is Ravens Seahawks, because the Seattle Seahawks are a half game up on the Niners because of the bye week already. If they lose, they are still tied with them for first. If they win, they're a game up on them. That's going to be big, especially coming up here weeks 11 or 12 and 14 or two Seattle games.
Yes,
so both those games are back. They're back and forth. With the Eagles. Nate called it the dirty bird sandwich is what Nate called it. It was pretty funny. So I think that's going to be the real kicker there, is that if the Ravens can hold off Seattle, then you're still even. You feel in a better spot going into those weeks later on.
All right. So, yeah, you don't root for either the Eagles or the Cowboys, do you, really?
Why would you? They're gross.
Well, I mean, because you're trying to figure out how you benefit the most, but I get it. With all the talk about Nick Bosa, he's got all the money, but he doesn't have a lot of sacks. Yeah. John Lynch says, no, if you know football, you look at the film, he's playing great. How well does Emil Fragoso say Nick Bosa is actually playing this year?
That's all GM coach talk. Nick Bosa needs to get home. That's the reality, is that Nick Bosa can get all the pressures he wants. He needs to get home. And I do think he's playing well because of, obviously analytics and all that stuff. But Nick Bosa was paid record-setting money to get home and be TJ Watt, be Myles Garrett, be all those guys. And he hasn't been, frankly, this year. Only 3 sacks on the year. That's not good enough for a guy who's reigned Defensive Player of the Year. And that's the reality. And Nick knows it too.
Wow, Emil blasting Bosa. How about that?
Well, I mean, you got to call it like you see it.
Yeah.
Hey, what about Deebo Samuel? What's the latest on him?
Yeah, Deebo, we saw him sprinting on the side of the field before the team's bye going into week 8. He looks to be pretty good. There was no harness or, shoulder pad, nothing on him to help support that shoulder. It is a hairline fracture, so it's a small microscopic fraction. You don't want to make it worse, obviously. But I do think Deebo is going to come back. And he went on Kay Adams' show, Up and Adams, recently. I think it was Thursday, and said,
Yes.
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. So if Deebo says he's ready to go, then he's ready to go. Now, the Niners may see how he is in practice first, because they got to be optimistic or got to be cautious going into later in the season. But if he says he's good to go, I trust Debo.
Before we get to your card of the day, Emil, I could be totally wrong. I feel like the 49ers are going to turn it around. I don't know if they're going to win the rest of their games, but I feel like whatever's going on, when they get Trent Williams back, you get Debo back, I think they're going to play well the rest of the way. I really do. That's what I feel in my heart.
Yeah, I honestly do too. I mean, you look at the games they have coming up right after the bye. They're at Jacksonville. Yes, Jacksonville's a good team, but I do think the Niners can win this game. Then they are home against the Buccaneers. And last year they dismantled the Buccaneers, and that was with Tom Brady. Now this is with Baker Mayfield. Getting those 2 wins, I think, is paramount to their success for the rest of the season, because it sets them up to go on a nice winning streak, to stack wins, because this team is all about going 1-0 each week. And they're going to keep doing that, but they got to start beating by Jacksonville and then beating the Buccaneers, which are 2 games they should win.
Yeah, they got to run the ball and stop the run. All right, that's Emil Fregoso. And now you have a card for us today, Emil?
I do. Yes, I do. This came in the mail this morning, actually. And I told you a little bit, Whitey, about how I collect downtowns. And this is the Damian Lillard from 2016-17 downtown. 9.5 grade on that one as well.
9.5 grade. So is that a rookie card for Damian Lillard?
No, this is from 2016-17. This is his, I believe, one or two of 3 copies that are in Portland. But it's the first one of the series, so the first edition of this, set. So I do think it's a wonderful card. Has a little rose in the back too. Very, very descriptive.
Jerry, yesterday Emil brought his cards in to show us. Literally, he had them in a locked briefcase.
Did he?
He did. They're rather valuable.
Well, yeah, you better.
Yeah. Any idea how much that one is worth?
That. Let me see here. I'd say about 500.
You better keep them locked up.
Especially around here.
Yeah. I do. Well, it's all because I'm a part of a new sports card show, Jerry and Whitey. That's why.
Yeah, that's on. Are you guys on tomorrow?
We are, yeah. The True Sports Card show every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here on Sactown Sports. Me and True Sports Card owner Emran Pilati. We talk all things sports cards. We're going to talk a lot of different things, and we're lining up some pretty cool guests coming up in the next couple of months. So stay tuned for that.
Emil, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one.
Emil is brought to you by Timber Creek Golf Course. Visit timbercreekgolfcourse.com to book your tee time today. Coming up, Jerry Reynolds says his favorite player he ever coached in the NBA, Eddie Johnson, joining us. Coming up here. It's Drive Guys on Sactown Sports.
What's the latest with the San Francisco 49ers? Carmichael, Dave, and Jason Ross keep you up to date on all things red and gold during the Niners at 9 every weekday at 9 a.m. on Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com.
Some days, my active psoriatic arthritis makes it hard to get in the game. Now, the ball is in my court, thanks to treating my skin and joints with Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults.
Nothing is everything.
Skyrizi helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi and visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Your new home for 49ers football in the 916, Sactown Sports.
Yeah, and Sactown Sports has been the home of the Kings for a long, long time. And Jerry Reynolds, of course, nice enough to join us today. And, sometimes, Jerry, it's hard to list all the things you've done. And that's why I've just taken to calling you lately all-time Kings icon, because that really does sum it up. And it's absolutely true. You're an icon in this town.
Yeah, what does that pay?
I don't know. It's just you probably don't have to ever buy many drinks in town, right? Or buy many beverages when you're out and about?
Well, I'm not out and about, so I wouldn't really know.
Yeah. All guests, by the way, come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. And we've been playing a little bit of text tag today with the great Eddie Johnson. Earlier, somebody, we like to field your questions for Jerry, and somebody asked Jerry who's his favorite player that ever coached in the NBA. And I've heard you answer that before, so I wasn't surprised when you went to Eddie Johnson. I'd actually texted him last night. And Eddie, I think the Sixers, they played last night, and I think they play like tomorrow morning our time. So, he's been traveling, and I know he has his own show. But he did say he's going to probably get to us in the 4 o'clock hour. So we're hoping to talk to your good friend, Eddie Johnson, sharpshooter, Eddie Johnson.
He sure was.
Tough guy, competitor.
One of those guys, he got better in the clutch.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys would shrink up a little bit, and Eddie, he would gladly take the big shot.
Mm-hmm. And that's what Wembanyama did last night. Got better in the clutch.
He sure did. Boy, scary how good he looked down the stretch of that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I watched him a lot, really early games and stuff. And that's one of those people say, well, you can tell he's going to be great, but it may take a while. Well, I took 5 games, I guess, because he was great last night.
Yeah. Well, as a coach, what did you think of the fact that Pop, if I'm not mistaken, he had used all his timeouts because he's got a young team and they were in the process of blowing a huge lead. So he used up all his timeouts to try to settle him down. I think he had to play the last 6 minutes without a timeout. Now, they won the game, but as a coach, what did you think of that?
I think, that's what timeouts are for. If you think you need them, take them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about what the media thinks or we'll get one in 2 minutes or something. Well, the game may be overtime. You get a mandatory one. So I totally agree with that. I mean, I've taken timeouts just to rest guys because I didn't have anybody else to put in. I used to have to deal with Rodney McRae. I said, you got to play 40 minutes. So we'll take timeouts, rest you, but I ain't taking you out.
Who were some of the other guys that you coached that you look back on and say, man, that guy's a really, really good player to coach?
Well, I thought, Danny Ainge was, Kenny Smith was terrific. LaSalle was the best, like Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those guys, early teams had the great chemistry
because they were selfless, or what? Or
well, yeah, and
combination
like I said, probably the only guy who had a little selfishness was Reggie, but Reggie was very popular
talented
with his teammates. He was talented, and the guys just said, "Well, that's Reggie."
Mm-hmm.
He's Reggie, and he'll get us 22, 24. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't really affect the chemistry, but the rest of the guys, just really together. I mean, it's kind of team that they were best friends, like Eddie and Mike Woodson have been best friends for 100 years.
Really?
Yeah.
And I know when the Kings came here, this is a long time ago, we're talking 85, 86, right? With their first year here in Sacramento. And they made the playoffs that year, and then Joe Axelson made trade that kind of busted that team up. But I know a lot of people feel that was a team that was on the verge of being a perennial playoff team. It didn't work out that way in Sacramento because one of the first droughts started in the second year. But it was a very good team that came here initially, right?
It was, and I couldn't agree more. I believe if that team had just been left alone, it would have been a mid-40s win team, probably for, certainly a playoff team, 5-6 year run. But because the chemistry was there was enough talent. You had some young talent like Otis Thorpe, and certainly LaSalle was a very young player then. So you had, and then the veteran guys. So the nice mix. So it would have, no doubt in my mind, at least, that it would have been a playoff team for many years.
Well, hopefully we'll catch up with EJ here. He's got a number of things going on. Eddie Johnson should be joining us this hour here on Sactown Sports. Jerry, the Kings this year getting ready to play, of course, Houston tomorrow night. Are they getting better where it matters the most? It looks like they're making strides defensively. All the talk I did all offseason was they got to get better defensively. It's only, 4 games in here, but it looks like they're maybe making some strides in that regard?
I think so. I think when you look at the team this year compared to last year, well, I think De'Aaron Fox is a better defender. Keegan Murray's a better defender than he was. Honestly, I think Sabonis he's not a great rim protector, but not many centers can step out and switch on wings and play them. So, yeah, I think, they've kind of bought in. I'm not saying they didn't buy in before, but I think the continuity of talent and togetherness kind of leads itself to better defense. And the good news is the Kings are playing better defense. The bad news is they're not as good offensively as I think they will be. So I think that the offense, I think, will take care of itself. I think that you've hit on it. To get better defense was the main thing to get improved.
They're not shooting well, but I think they're getting pretty good shots for the most part, right? Which shows the offense is functioning.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, here again, it's a team that depends on making threes, and so they haven't shot them nearly as well as they have in the past, or we expect them to. And teams go through that, where I always say 50% shooters don't hit 5 out of 10 every night. Sometimes it's 3 out of 10 and then 7 out of 10. And so I expect Keegan and I think Herter will get settled in at some point and start making shots.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I don't want to be overly critical. Kevin Herter, you can't question his effort because he's clearly making an effort to do everything else when he's not shooting the ball well. But for this team to be as good as they hope to be, he's got to start making shots, right? There's no way around that.
Yeah, no.
And everyone knows it, and he knows it.
And he knows it. And, his history indicates he will, because he did before he came to Sacramento. He was a good three-point shooter and a clutch shooter for the Hawks. So I think he will. But just watching him, it really does seem like it's bothered him, because I see some kind of jerk shots.
Yes.
Yes, not really the follow through.
It does seem like sometimes it gets a little too flat.
A little flat. And I always say that, when the flat shot, the way you got less chance to make it, the 45-degree angle kind of thing. Obviously, you got a bigger target.
Yeah.
And he's and I thought last year he had a nice arch on his shot, and it looks like to me he's flattened it out.
Yeah, in golf, people say never up, never in, which means if you don't get it to the hole, it ain't going in. And I say that in basketball, never up, never in. You got to get it up in the air, or it has no chance. And
right, yeah, it's a tougher percentage. Yeah, I mean, some guys that have a little flatter trajectory, but in general, I mean, the great shooters, when you watch Curry, I mean, you can't get any better than that. And a nice arc to it. So when it's on, it's just tickling the twine. That's it.
Do we need Domas to take a few more? Teams are giving him that shot.
I think so. He shot, 37% last year of the three, and I think it's about the same.
And he's shooting fewer. It's very marginal, but he's technically shooting fewer so far this year than he did last year.
Yeah, he should take 2 a game at least. I mean, regardless whether he makes or miss them, I think it just forces teams to play him a little bit, especially if he makes one. And of course, I'd like to see him when guys are playing off of him, when they're playing like the pick and roll or basically dribble handoff, go at the guy a little more. We saw it a little bit the last couple of games, especially going at Looney a little bit. It's a way to go. I mean, he's been more productive.
Are the Kings getting better defensively where it matters most? Are they doing a better job of protecting the paint? Are they doing a better job of keeping opposing guards from penetrating the perimeter and getting into the paint in the first place?
I think so. I mean,
that's the key with this team.
That's the key with this team, because that's been the real weakness, is where you had so many straight dribble drives right to the rim, and not many guys can handle that as a center. I mean, so I think the Kings, from their Keegan's had a lot to do with that. I think he's got so much better defensively that and Harrison was always pretty solid. And then Fox, I think that's been a real key, because he's staying in front of guys just about like Davion.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. So there's hope despite that bone-crushing loss. The Kings doing a lot of good things defensively, and there's an opportunity here. These next 3 games, they take care of business, turn the season all the way around here in the next few days. When we come back, Wemby is real. Is there a chance the Spurs are already real? That's next, Jerry. Jerry Reynolds in today. Drive Guys on Sactown Sports.
Trying to find out where to catch your favorite team's games?
Are you a fan of the Kings, Niners, and the NFL? Well, Sactown Sports has you covered.
Touchdown! San Francisco! It's all on his shoulders. Cox rocks. He fires for the win. He's got the triple.
Catch all your Kings, Niners, and NFL games all year long on Sactown Sports and Sactownsports.com.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Bonnie.
I'm Mark Finan in the KCRA3 Weather Center. Skies will stay mainly clear through the night tonight. A few clouds overnight. Temperatures by morning will be in the low to mid 50s. Nice day Saturday. Partly cloudy with highs in the mid to upper 70s. Get the latest forecast on the KCRA3 News and the KCRA3 app.
Imagine taking a nice warm bath in your shower. Let us fix that. Right now, get that clogged drain unclogged for just $97. Bonnie. Plumbing, sewer, electrical, heating, and air. Bonnie.com. Some restrictions apply. License 696-355.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean, and there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
The 49ers Report, brought to you by EB Stone. EB Stone for the life of your garden. Not much went right for the red and gold in Week 8, losing their third straight game of the season, 31-17. Cincinnati quarterback Joe Burrow was cooking early, throwing for 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. Running back Joe Mixon also got involved, going for 87 yards on the ground. His lone touchdown put the exclamation point on the visitors' victory, walking in from 5 yards out late in the fourth quarter. The 49ers entered their bye week at 5-3, dropping to second in the NFC West.
With over 100 years as a family-owned company, EB Stone's learned a few things about making plants grow. Start a healthy family hobby with indoor planting with EB Stone's Edna's Best indoor and outdoor potting soil to help your little plants grow into the perfect indoor plant for the kids and family to enjoy. EB Stone's indoor and outdoor potting soil is perfectly blended with all the important ingredients you need to create that perfect indoor and outdoor plant or garden. EB Stone for the life of your garden. Visit ebstone.org for more gardening tips, products, and locations near you.
Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop. Here's Frank LaRosa.
With wet weather here, you're probably going to play a few rounds in the rain, so keep a few things in mind in those wet conditions. The ball probably won't go as far because you'll get little, if any, run out. If you tend to hit the ball low, maybe think about adjusting the loft of your driver to carry the ball farther. And when you get to the short clubs on the wet ground, your wedge can have a tendency to dig into the turf, so focus on hitting the ball first. And if you occasionally spin the ball back on the greens, expect more of that to happen when they're wet. Now, all of this assumes that you're ready to play in the rain. You own waterproof shoes and rain gear, rain gloves, which work best when wet, and an extra towel to keep everything else dry. But the most important thing you should bring to the first tee is a positive attitude. I found some of my most memorable rounds have been played in the rain. Overcoming the conditions to enjoy yourself while possibly shooting a good score makes for a great day. And remember, golf is a game, even in the rain. That's your Golf to Go. I'm Frank LaRosa.
The Drive Guys, live and local, every afternoon, Monday through Friday on Sactown Sports.
Yeah, Kyle Draper in Houston today. So the great all-time Kings icon, Jerry Reynolds, helping us out. Earlier, somebody asked Jerry to name his favorite players that he ever coached, and I knew it'd be the first name out of his mouth. He mentioned the great Eddie Johnson, played many years in the NBA, was an original Sacramento King, currently an outstanding Suns broadcaster. And joining us now, Jerry, is your favorite player you ever coached, Eddie Johnson. Say hello to EJ.
EJ, the man, the legend, the myth.
I thought you retired.
Well, I did, and I should have stayed that way. This is a temporary thing,
Yeah, you're just helping us out, EJ, and thank you. I know you guys are so busy. You're on a road.
Hey,
yeah.
Honestly, he retired, and Jody said, "Look, no, you got to go."
Well, there was certainly, I think a lot of people would say, "Wow, you stayed way too long."
Eddie, we were just talking about a number of things that happened when Jerry was coaching you guys. He was telling us about a time you guys ran a play for LaSalle Thompson because LaSalle wanted a play run for him, and then he says Tank screwed the play up twice, and then he just didn't run it. Were you there for that? Do you remember that play?
I probably was. I mean, that's why we got our head knocked in a lot of nights. I mean, but yeah, Tank didn't get a lot of plays run for him because he was such a tremendous offensive rebounder. He could go get my misses and Reggie's misses and Larry Drew's misses.
Yeah, there's a lot of misses there.
Yeah, a lot of misses, but we put it up a lot. But that's what he did. He and Joe Klein, I mean, they rarely got the ball thrown to him. Like, we would throw it to Tank, and Tank would catch it. There was no problem with Tank. Tank had good hands.
I always said, too, I mean, Tank could set some screens, too, couldn't he? I mean, he was –
oh, yeah.
He was
he was my bodyguard. I
hey, Eddie,
a lot of junk.
no, the story was, I don't know if you remember, but if Tank had just, and Tank's such a good guy and was saying, you guys never run anything for me. So we spent a little time in a shoot around or something, had a play put in called Texas. And so we're going to run that the first time we had the ball. And we did, and Tank forgot it. And then we ran it again. And anyway, the first time out, I'll never get this. He came up and said, "I don't run anything for me anymore. I don't want it. I don't want any plays."
That sounds like him.
Yeah.
He wasn't used to it. He wasn't used to it. That's probably what it was. And Jerry, I mean, even when we were in Kansas City, these guys, I mean, we rarely ran a ton of plays for the centers because it was always action off of them setting screens, and that's how they would get the ball. And it was very frustrating for them, and I knew it. But I remember one time Joe Klein was crying for the ball, and he wanted it. And I threw it to him a couple of times, and, Joe didn't have the greatest of hands.
No.
So the ball kind of bounced off his hands, right? So I told him, I told the guys, I said, look, don't throw the ball to his hand. I said, the best target is his head. So he had one of the biggest heads in the history of the game.
He did.
I said, throw it at his head, and he'll catch the ball there. And I learned to just fire it at his head, and literally he would catch everything. So that was always like my information and my hint in regards to throwing the ball to Joe Klein.
Hey,
I hope he's not listening.
Hey, well, I hope so too. But I can tell you a story when Joe was traded to Boston, and Bird called me one time and said, "Where can I throw Klein the ball that he could catch it?" And I said, "Just throw it right at his chest. He won't catch it, but he'll knock it down."
Back catcher.
Yeah. Eddie Johnson with us. Eddie, what do you think of where the Kings are now, given, you were here the first couple years, and then you guys had, Jerry was telling us that was a really special team that got broken up there, and the Kings, after the long drought, now things headed in the right direction, it appears. You have a unique perspective on their history. What do you think of where the Kings are and how they got there?
Well, I think they're at a great place right now. I love the idea of playing in Sacramento. I was very disappointed that, obviously I got traded, and Jerry had nothing to do with it, so you can't blame him.
No, I didn't.
It was a wonderful, insightful, tremendously gifted, nice Joe Axelson, who obviously didn't like me for some reason. I have no idea, even to this day. And Joe's not here. But I kind of, when I pray sometimes, I'm like, Joe, why you didn't like me? I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I showed up and played every night. Yeah, I was probably limited in certain areas, but I showed up. I didn't miss games. I played hard. And he didn't like me. And it was just, it's funny. I tell young players this all the time. I'm like, your challenge is to stay in the league as long as you can. And you're going to run into people that's going to view you differently. And I think at that point in time, we had a lot of gifted players on our team when we came to Sacramento. It was myself, LaSalle, as Jerry and I are talking about, Reggie Theus, Larry Drew, Mike Woodson. We had some high character guys that didn't follow us to Sacramento. We had a Joe C. Merriweather who passed away a number of years ago, who was a tremendous leader on our team. But we had a great group of guys. But yes, we did struggle on the court, but we were young. And I thought we had a chance. In our first year in Sacramento, you know, we started out slow, and then eventually we played well enough to make the playoffs, and Houston beat us in the first round, but they went on to the finals. So it was like, okay, we understood why they beat us. And I just saw growth there. And then, you know, along the way, I think, you know, Joe Atkinson kind of beat the team up a little bit, and he made a deal for Derek Smith. And I think, you know, and Derek Smith is not here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek was really a good dude. He just had an edge to him that didn't fit. And, you know, we went downhill after that for a while. And it was good to see the change, and with Divock and Bibby and all of them, and how they turned it around, and Peja. And now back to the point where the Kings are, I'm extremely excited for it. Even though I work for the Phoenix Suns, I am always got a keen eye on the Kings. I support them continuously.
Eddie Johnson with us, one of the original Kings, and of course his coach here with the Kings, Jerry Reynolds on Sactown Sports.
Well, Eddie, just one final thing. I was telling Whitey, I said one thing about Eddie Johnson. A lot of guys don't want to take the last shot, and they shrink up a little bit. And Eddie, you couldn't give him enough big shots.
No, I wasn't running from it. That was food. I was not running from it at all. I figured, you know, Jerry, look, I had to do something, right? I mean, you know, I never got any pat on the back for defense. I mean, you did, but no matter how well I played D, no matter, I could go 8-9 games and just concentrate on D and try to do it. I would never get credit for that. And that's the label of the league. It's no matter, once a label is put on you, it's hard to shake it. But the one thing I knew I had a great label for is I could shoot that damn ball and score.
Well,
so that was always its forefront of my mind.
That was automatic. Yeah, you know, that I remember telling Joe Axton when they were talking about trading you. And, you know, he's, Eddie, don't do that. I said, I've been just in the league a little while, but I know he gets 20 points when he plays, and the guy he plays gets 15. And I said, if everybody does that, we'll be 82-0.
Exactly. But I was a Cotton guy, and you know that. I mean, I was a Cotton guy, and Joe didn't like that, and it's unfortunate. That's why it's great to always have great leadership within an organization, and I believe the Kings do right now, and they obviously had it when you were there as well. And I just love what Mike Brown is doing. I love the way that they play, and De'Aaron Fox is, man. Oh, I'm telling you, he is unreal. And I just love how they play basketball. The unselfishness of Harrison Barnes, who could really cry and say, I want the ball more, as noted by him having a huge game in opening night. So there's just a lot of great things about that team that I love. And we've had some battles with them here over the last few years.
That's very gracious of you to say. Jerry says that De'Aaron Fox is on track where he could become the best player in Sacramento Kings history. What do you think of that?
Well, he is. I mean, he's on track. Now, can he sustain it, right? That's always the key, is can you sustain it? Because if you sustain it, that means you got to be there a lot of years, and also you got to make sure that you stay healthy and stay on the court. And then when you do have an injury, make sure that you are in great enough shape that your recovery is going to be a lot faster. And I just admired what he did the other night. He knew that he was going to be out a bit. He knew. And so in knowing that, he got back on the court, and he put the Kings in a great situation to win that game. Because, you know, if it wasn't for him in regulation to get them to overtime against the Lakers, then they probably, you know, don't have that chance. And so, I think he's going to be tremendous, man. He's definitely the best clutch player in the game right now in the fourth quarter. I haven't seen anybody better than him. And so, yeah, I expect him to continue to grow.
Well, Eddie, what did you think of Victor Wembanyama the other night? I watched that in your broadcast. I mean, wow.
Yeah. It's always a game. Like for me, I remember my second year in the league. I think I had like 35 points and like 15 rebounds against the Milwaukee Bucks. And when I had that game, now note I just said my second year. But until then, I just had no clue. And I was 22 years old, 23 years old. And after that game, I said, okay, I got this. And I went on to average almost 20 points a game in my second year. And the game became more clear for me. It became more easier for me. My angles became more precise. And it was like every night I went out there, I could pretty much write down what I felt I could get against that potential team because I figured it out. This kid figured it out against us this past weekend, and that's his fifth damn game. Like, that's what blew me away. It's like at 19 years old, because I was being critical that he shies away from the paint. He likes to float on the perimeter and all those things. And in last night, like the first game we gave him a gift. I mean, we should have beaten them the game before that at home, but we gave him a gift. It showed me something because everything now was in the paint. Like he started playing in the paint and using his size, and they were throwing lobs to him. And Kevin Durant is almost 7 foot tall. Just to give you an idea, Kevin Durant looked like he was 6'4" guarding him.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
That's how tall he is. That's how tall this guy is, and he's agile. He pulled you. Did you see him dribble the ball up fast at the end of the third, I think, and pulled up for a three and made it like a guard? Look, no, the league is in trouble. Like now we know why Greg Popovich is probably going to coach till he's 100 years old. The league is in trouble.
Do you think he's ahead of schedule? You could say. Do you think, Eddie, that maybe the Spurs are a little ahead of schedule? I mean, the West is so compacted this year. I mean, could they be a team that's going to be legitimately in the hunt for at least a lower playoff spot this year?
Without a doubt. They showed me that. They've shown me that all year. They got 2 forwards that can flat out score. Keldon Johnson and Vassell can score. Okay? And Zach Collins has finally reached his potential in what everybody thought he was when he came out. So, yes, that what I tried to tell people yesterday, that was no fluke. Jerry, you know this.
Yeah.
The one thing about San Antonio, I don't care how you look at it. I don't care if they don't have talent, no talent. They're going to play hard, and they're going to run their offense pristine. And if you don't match it, they'll beat you. And that's exactly what happened. Suns are beat up right now, a little beat up. Obviously, we got a lot of new players, so he got a little bumps and bruises. Then, Devin was out for 3-4 games. He came back last night. It's just a lot of unevenness going on with them. And that young team in the Spurs, they took advantage of it, and they shot lights out, man. Oh, yeah. They're not going anywhere this year. They're going to compete all year. And people like giving the Suns a hard time losing to them, just watch. They'll beat the Lakers this year. They'll beat Golden State this year. They'll even beat Denver this year in the game. I just believe that they're going to compete all year. And, yes, bottom rung, 8th, 9th, 10th spot, yeah, without a doubt, I think they'll be in a play-in.
Wow. Hey, Eddie, looking at your numbers, which are so impressive, one of the things that jumps out there is the fact that I know you've talked about this on your show. Your years here in Sacramento, you had been a starter and very productive, and then you're coming off the bench. And Jerry's talked about this. I've talked to Jerry about this. You were a guy that understood why that was best for the team, which is not something that is common, certainly not these days. Tell us about what that was like for you, even though you were a very productive player, to look at the situation and say, all right, I think we're all better off here if I come off the bench, because not everybody has that presence of mind or that intelligence.
Look, it wasn't easy for Phil Johnson to come to me and say, Eddie, we're going to bring you off the bench. When I'm leading the team in scoring, I'm second in rebounding, I'm shooting around 50% from the field as a jump shooter, okay? And he came to me and he said that. Initially, I wanted to kill him. I did. I wanted to kill him. And I just said, you know what, Eddie, I'm not going to fight this. And it was in the last year of my contract too, so I knew a little bit of that too. And I just said to myself, I'm going to prove to them in reverse. I'm going to still lead the team in scoring. I'm going to still rebound the ball. It's like I'm going to still do it. And I knew I was going to get the same amount of minutes. So it was no issue with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned into something that actually allowed me to play 18 years professionally. So, yeah, I was mad at Phil Johnson initially. But over the years, I just like, you know what? It turned out to be great. And I used it to, even though there's another proven point that, that justified why I should be playing and why I should have the ball and all of those things. So, and we made the playoffs that year. So Terry Tyler came into the lineup and gave us a different look early in game. And, we turned the season around and we made the playoffs that year. And although Houston beat us, but we still, to me, it seemed like it was a successful change in my game, and I just lived with it.
Hey, you touched on the Suns, some of their issues right now. Is Bradley Beal's back? Is that becoming a cause for concern at all? Do they know when he's going to be ready to start playing?
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and I've said this for the last few years, and I know Jerry probably has great thoughts on this as well. As I said this the last few years, the biggest mistake that players made was getting sneaky rest because they could get it. And what I mean by that is training camp. Training camps used to be 28 days. And we used to go 2 a day, every freaking day. Now, I'm not saying do that, but what I am saying, it shouldn't be 5 days. Like, training camp is 5 days, and they're playing exhibition games. And the stars and the guys that are going to play during the year aren't playing in the exhibition game. So now when the season starts, they're not in great shape. And by the way, and Jerry knows this, after the 4th or 5th day of training camp, your body, reacts negatively towards you. You are sore. And you have to battle through that. Now, look at it the way these guys hit it. They don't even practice but 1 a day. They don't go terribly hard. And so the soreness for them starts to happen during the season, early part. And to me, it's happened to a lot of players early on right now in this season. Lower extremity injuries happen. So all these things are going on because I believe that they don't prepare for the 82-game marathon like they should. And they're trying to start the marathon, and they're not prepared to play. And so it goes back to Bradley Beal with his back. Yeah, he's had back spasms. And he should be ready. I think I heard that he'll quite possibly he'll play Wednesday against Chicago. And now the Suns they just holding him out. He's getting better by the day. They let Devin get to 100%. He could have played earlier and not missed the games that he missed. And you saw how he played last night. He's just ridiculous. And so I think they'll be whole here in about a week. And I think, you'll see a better team. And the role players will be good for them because, I think we have a very good nucleus of role players.
Well, Eddie, thank you for being so gracious with your time. We appreciate it. I know you guys are so busy, been traveling. Thanks for coming on with Jerry. Jerry, anything else for
Well, just Eddie, all-timer in my book, and obviously played on a awfully fun team to be around. And I know you and Mike Woodson and are still very close. And, that's the kind of team that I think they've got now. Eddie, one very similar to the chemistry and the good guys that was on that team.
Yeah, well, look, anytime I'm invited to come on this show, I will be, because I love this dude that I'm talking to. Okay? And I'm not just saying that. He knows it. He is one of my favorite coaches and people I've ever been around in this game. And I just hate it. That's one of the reasons I hated leaving Sacramento when I did, is because of this guy here. So, Jerry, look, it's good that you got out the house and you doing a little something, because you can't just totally retire. You got too much energy. Okay, so stay with it.
Well, hey, that's exactly what Mrs. Reynolds told me. Get out of the house some.
Thank you, Eddie. We appreciate it very, very much. We hope to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay, good. I love you, Jerry. Okay, take care.
Take care.
Oh, there you go. Jerry Reynolds' favorite player, Eddie Johnson. Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah,
Good guy.
absolutely. We're going to take time out. When we come back, another former King, Ryan Hollins. You may remember Ryan from a few years ago. He actually is a TV analyst now for the Rockets. So Ryan's going to join us, help us get ready for the Kings and the Rockets when we come back here with the Drive Guys. Whitey Gleason, Kyle's in Houston. We got Jerry Reynolds in today on Sactown Sports.
The Sacramento Kings play here.
He's got the triple. Sacramento takes the lead.
Get your Kings fix all season long right here on your home of the Sacramento Kings. Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com.
Guys, did you know your testosterone level impacts your energy, libido, sleep, weight, hair loss, mood, and even ED? And right now, Revive Men's Health Sacramento will check your testosterone for free. They've helped thousands of men since 2011 feel and perform better. They're so confident they can help you, they even guarantee it. Schedule your free testosterone test, exam, and consultation today. Call 916-277-8599. That's 916-277-8599. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Model Year End pricing is back at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
During the Model Year End event, lower interest rates at Folsom Lake Honda make lower payments. It's no wonder why Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop. Come in today or check out our entire inventory online at FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Get an instant cash offer for your trade at FolsomLakeHonda.com. We'll buy your car whether you buy from us or not. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop.
Folsom Lake Honda.
Go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Your one-stop Honda shop.
Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Hey, small business owner. Are you ready to have the best year ever in 2024? When's the last time you checked your workers' comp rate? For many small businesses, workers' comp insurance is one of their biggest costs. But Pi Insurance could save you up to 30% in just 3 minutes. Go to trypi.com, share a few details about your business, and get a quote that's customized for your business. No hassles or hidden fees. We know you're busy, but spending just a few minutes to check your rate could make this your best year ever. Plus, when you sign up for pay-as-you-go billing, your premium is based on your actual payroll, not an estimate. So your workers' comp audit experience is simplified. See how much you could save with Pi Insurance. Ask your agent for Pi or get a quote at trypi.com. That's TRYPIE.com.
Check out the Golf to Go Hour with Frank LaRosa every week on Sactown Sports. Get the latest on equipment, area courses, people who play the great game, and plenty of good conversations about golf. It's the Golf to Go Hour every week with Frank LaRosa on Sactown Sports. Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop, America's most awarded golf facility. Nature Wood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
All new spring deals are here at Lowe's. Start planting your garden this weekend with Bonnie 11.8-ounce vegetables. Buy 4 for $10. Plus, liven up your patios and decks with fresh blooms. Select 1.5-gallon hanging baskets or 2 for $20. Lowe's knows spring. Lowe's knows home improvement. Offers valid through 5/17. In-store only. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
It's no secret to golf enthusiasts that Timber Creek and Sierra Pines in Roseville are one of the region's most unique and scenic places to enjoy a great game of golf. 27 holes, boundless options. Elevate your game on our newly renovated driving range, putting green, and chipping area. Whether you're aiming for fun, lower scores, or all-around growth, we've got you covered. Experience golfing dreams in Roseville and book your tee time at timbercreekgc.com. Timber Creek and Sierra Pines, your ultimate golf haven.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
No look, Bibby to Weber, down the lane, flying jam. There's your play of the night right there. It's inside is Sabonis, a two-hand rip, a brilliant pass from De'Aaron Fox.
KHTKAM Sacramento, KYMX HD2 Sacramento.
Sactown Sports.
Friday with the Drive Guys. Al Draper in Houston, Jerry Reynolds in, and we just had a wonderful conversation with the guy that was an original King, and Jerry said was his favorite player to coach. Eddie Johnson joined us, and Eddie sounds obviously very impressed with Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, he sure did, didn't he?
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you? Because, the guy is one of one. He's a generational talent, no doubt.
There's something about Eddie. Obviously, his resume is incredible. When he talks and he says, hey, listen, I listen. He has such command. When he's going to make a basketball point, I'm all in. And that's one of the things that makes him such a great broadcaster. He doesn't throw things around, but when he tells you this is the way it is, you know that you're getting the truth.
Yeah, very confident guy. And that's why he was such a good player. And I would say that was why, in my mind, he was such a great clutch player. He knew that he could make a high percentage of shots when it really counted. So there's no nervousness like some guys with a little less confidence.
Sure.
Or can really get the points up till about 6 minutes to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it's like,
oops, not me.
As I mentioned, Ryan Holland's going to join us top of the hour. Ryan Hollins, former King, is now a Houston Rockets analyst. So we'll talk to Ryan about what's going on with the Kings and their opponent the next two games, the Houston Rockets. Do you like these back-to-back games in the NBA now against the same team?
I think I do, on the reason that it cuts down on some of the travel. I think it's a good move that way. And, you got to play them. So what difference does it make if it's the same team? It's probably a little harder to win 2 in a row off the same team, but most players would probably prefer that as to the travel.
Yeah, it does make sense. I don't know if this makes sense. We have some of the tournament games on here, and the Cavs playing the Pacers. That is an in-season tournament game, and I think the court they have there has switched Jerry from someone who didn't care about the in-season tournament. Now you're all in, right? When you see that court.
Boy, Indiana, you've just lost me. It just, I may not claim being a native of Indiana.
You don't like that?
Oh, I don't
blue
like
court?
that. Oh, blue court?
Yeah.
Jiminy, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't.
It looks like the NBA is trying to become Oregon, with all the goofy colors and stuff.
It looks like they're trying to be like, what is it, Nickelodeon? If they had a game, that's what it would look like. That's, again, I know it's very easy to say the in-season tournament is new. I don't like it. I just feel like I'm being beaten over the head with it by the league. This is great. You're going to love it. You've never seen it before. It's the greatest thing. And I'm not convinced.
Well, all I know is that the people that go to those games and buy the tickets, most of them liked a good old hardwood floor for years, and I think they're
basketball.
They're appealing to. They say we're appealing to a different audience. Yeah, you're appealing to an audience that don't pay for tickets.
Yeah, people that don't like basketball. All guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. And with the Kings getting ready to play the Rockets tomorrow night and Monday, nice enough to join us, Houston Rockets TV analyst, former King, 10 years in the NBA, Jer.
Yeah, one of those guys that was a good player and knew how to fit in and had a good career because of it.
Yeah, Ryan Hollins with us. How are you tonight, Ryan?
Well, what is going on, brother?
It's good to talk with you. We're watching the in-season tournament here, and Jerry is not a huge fan of some of the crazy courts that we're seeing, Ryan. I know you're an NBA guy. What do you think this thing's going to fly, this in-season tournament?
I think it's a unique way to increase the competitive level of the league. And right now, I get it. I understand both sides. The players understand their value, but we also know it's basketball. You're paid a lot of money to go and play the game. So the league is saying, hey, we'll meet you in between, in the middle. And they're trying to find ways that make these guys want to compete, make them want to play hard. I know the funny thing is
guys would, and I'm not going to say names, some guys would hate to come to practice and play ball and do something that's their job. But if we made a $5 bet over making a shot, you see guys put their heart and soul into it, right? So maybe the mindset between this not a $5 tournament, I don't want to say that, but this play-in tournament that may not be an NBA championship, and it's very popular over in Europe, the little mini championships and cups, can give a team something to hang their hat on, and it could come with a great value to the league, and especially with the TV rights.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep an open mind, Jer.
Well, I should, but mine's closed, so we'll see. Ryan, what do you think of with a new coach there and some veterans added to the roster? Are you optimistic about what you're seeing and going to see?
I'm extremely optimistic. I think the one thing that we're seeing in Houston right now is accountability, and these guys, make no mistake, they got to get used to Coach Ime Udoka. It's a different style. And I guess I'd liken it a little bit to kind of like a college basketball style. And I say it in a way of there's accountability. The coach is the lead guy on the team. I don't want to say rather than the players, but coach's word means something. And sometimes in college, it takes players a while to get used to coach's system. And I think we saw it over in Boston. I think we're seeing it in Houston now, where the Rockets are kind of getting used to what Coach Ime Udoka wants. And if I'm mistaken, when Ime first got there in Boston, they lost their first couple games. And then when they kind of figured out what he was asking of them, what he wanted them to bring to the table, the team got rolling. So I expect the same here in Houston. But make no mistake, man, the first beginning of the season, man, the league didn't do us any favors, man. I mean, it's Sacramento, Denver, Pelicans, Lakers. Like, there's no nights off here. So, this young Rockets squad is going to get put to the fire immediately.
Yeah, Ryan Holland's with us. And to that point, Ryan, it's funny because we know that part of the in-season tournament is designed to try to make these games early in the season important. But in the West, the Kings right now, the Rockets, I mean, it's so compacted. Every game is important already, tournament or not. So after starting 1-3, how big are these next two games against the Kings for your Rockets?
They're everything. And we've been talking about this. You looked at this Charlotte game essentially as a must-win because in all reality, you could lose these games because you're playing a team that's contending for a championship. All these teams are contenders that the Rockets are going to see, so there's no easy nights off. And the one thing we know, it's always hard to beat a team twice. And last year, the Rockets didn't end up getting any of those wins against the Kings, but, I mean, it came down to a hair. Remember, I mean, Eric Gordon, I'm thinking a fingernail hit hit the Kings and ended up giving up those game-winning free throws. So at the end of the day, man, I don't think there's any easy outs. I don't care who's on the other side. It's always hard to beat a team twice. And one thing the Rockets, I think what's interesting, Whitey, that we'll really look for is the Rockets love to play fast at their frenetic pace. And the Kings are going, hold on, man, this is a team that likes to play just as fast as we do. And the Rockets seemingly had the Kings number, played them extremely well last year. And this is the team that moves the basketball a little more, doesn't play as fast. And I want to see if that same level of, even though it wasn't a win, I'd like to say that the Rockets had a lot of success against the Kings and see if that, pans out in this matchup coming up.
Yeah. How about this, Ryan? Have you been able to teach, I'm a big Şengün guy. Have you yet been able to teach him the hook shot? I know you were working on that, trying to teach Alperen Şengün that sky hook. I know that the efforts didn't get off to a great start. Where are we now with that, sir?
Whitey, listen, I told you that, and I was laughing because as soon as I came in studio, the first thing you were trying to do is teach me a sky hook. And I think I laughed at you because every old lover of the NBA game, the first thing they would do is learn this sky hook, big fella. And we should have seen Whitey getting his post position and leading with his elbow, keeping his elbow high and shielding his body and getting that sky hook off. And when Şengün came across, I don't know why, I naturally went to the sky hook to teach him the sky hook. And it was just like, it just flowed. It felt like everything was aligned in the universe when I did it. And, what's funny? You'll get a laugh out of this. He goes, I'd rather shoot, like the other shot. It's like a push shot, little push hook, 2 feet. And he tells me that's natural. And about a game or two ago, I was laughing because he pulled the sky hook out in the game, dude, and I kid you not, and it was so fluid and natural, and I kid you not, why he shot the sky hook. I saw it with my own eyes, dude.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's the sky hook. Yeah, and it was a legit sky hook, and it was over, I think, like Mark Williams or, one of the shot blockers, and I'm like, that's the shot. That's the shot.
JaVale McGee has dusted off a couple of those already this year. Jer, I mean, legitimate sky hook.
Yeah, which I didn't really know he had.
I didn't either.
I mean, he's always had kind of the big sweeping hook, but
yeah. Ryan, how about Dylan Brooks? I mean, so far, I know you guys haven't won as many games as you'd like, but it seems like he's earning his paycheck so far.
Dylan Brooks is really, really good. We got a skill in Dylan Brooks, and I knew his offense was there. Some people may have questioned his shot selection at times, but he's knocking down the shots. I don't think he's even being set up properly. I think he's just stepping in rhythm. He was excellent this summer for Team Canada, and he's been a breath of fresh air. But he does so many little things on the floor that you love, and I'm irritated with it. But I guess it's part of the territory. They keep showing these clips like Dylan Brooks isn't a good defender. Dylan Brooks is locking everybody up. And every so often a guy will hit a shot or, it looks like a highlight shot because he'll gamble, he'll reach, he'll do all those things, man. But his minutes, his value, he's probably leading the team in plus minus with what he's been able to do on the floor, man. But it's been special.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Hollins, our guest here, is with the Rockets. Their fine TV analyst. As much as the Rockets have struggled with rebounding, Ryan, why aren't you on the active roster?
I don't shoot threes, Roddy. We left that in Sacramento, man. We left that in my Sacramento days. The three-pointer wasn't something. I was working on sky hooks, not keeping in my range and getting my legs under my threes. My days are done there, man.
What is it like for that? You guys have so much young talent. I mean, Jalen Green is a phenomenal talent. Jabari Smith Jr. And as you said, I guess you addressed this earlier. I mean, with a new coach, these young guys, they're trying to assimilate the veterans and at the same time figure out a little more structure from a veteran coach, right?
Well, yeah. Instead of, our young guys were thinking about how can they get their shot last year. And sometimes it's tough for players. There's rare guys that just can, the LeBrons that you just put the ball in LeBron's hand and everything gets figured out. So our guys are now saying, well, how do we give Coach Udoka what he wants? How do I get my shots within the offense? How do I make a certain play or two? So I think that's what our guys are right now kind of getting used to doing. So that's the fun part, and I think it's going to pay off in the long run. But everything's been a lot easier for Jalen Green, easier for Şengün. And, the one thing that the Rockets want to do is find ways to play through Şengün. And, it's funny, he seemed like he was the odd man out, so to speak, with Coach Udoka, was defensive-minded and ball movement and all this. And he's been running through Şengün really heavy. Alfie's been the Rockets' best player so far this season. And I think that it's been a breath of fresh air. But, he's really been the guy, the most consistent. I mean, he's been defending. He's been much better on the on the defensive end of the floor. And if he can keep up this play, man, I'm intrigued with where he can take this ball club.
Ryan, we'll let you go on this one. As always, appreciate your time very much. And I know you're focused on the Rockets now, but of course you were here for a while when things weren't going as well for the franchise. And then last year, the Kings turning it around and snapping that playoff drought. What was that like as a former King to see things finally headed in the right direction for the Sacramento Kings?
I was so happy, not just for Vivek and the players, but the city. It's been a long time. And when Sacramento is rocking, man, it's really special. And I think the one thing Vivek has been able to do is he's got all the other teams in the league going, man, we got to step it up. Hold on, that whole thing is solar powered and self-sufficient and all that. And the rest of the league is going, man, we got to step up and match what's going on there. But it was really cool. And I'm like, Sacramento's like hip. Sacramento's like fun. Like 50 cents at the game, stuff is going on. So I just think it was fun to see because it's been a long time and you can feel the energy in the arena in the city.
Well, thank you, especially on a Friday night. You got a game tomorrow. Appreciate your time very much, Ryan. You're the best. Enjoy the games, not too much. We're hoping that things go the Kings' way, but enjoy the games. Have a good call. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Hey, you guys sound great. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ryan Hollins, former Sacramento King, former many teams. Yeah. Which is, to his credit. I mean, he hung around the league a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's, the old saying is find a way to stay in the league. And, if you do, then you can have a nice career. And he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We just had two very nice conversations on the last hour with two former Kings. Eddie Johnson joined us to talk about his days with the coach who loves him, and that's obviously mutual. In fact, I just thanked Eddie for coming on, and he just said, I love him. So obviously you don't need me to tell you, but you got a big fan of Eddie Johnson. Obviously that's mutual. And Ryan Hollins is a tremendous guy. He's always come on and been very generous with his time.
Yeah, one of those guys, really a lively player, always ready to play. Just couldn't really kind of get locked down spot.
Yeah.
One of those guys that just couldn't get that 35-minute job.
Yeah.
But every team in the league, a little bit like JaVale McGee, at some point, he could play on every team, but it had to be as a spot player, reserve player.
I think the most famous moment or most memorable moment Ryan Hollins had as a King was, if I'm not mistaken, when the Kings had the lead early in the year 2017, and he was guarding Vince Carter on the inbound in Memphis, remember?
Inbounds play, and he touched.
It was just a fraction of a second.
We thought he touched the ball.
Right. And he says he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would have given the Kings the win.
Yeah.
The official said he didn't, and so they had the time for the win.
They had the scoop underneath. Who was it? The guy who went to Florida, I think, made the catch. Anyway, and Ryan Hollins says, no, I did. I tipped the ball. So.
Yeah, Grant and I had great seats on that. I mean, I was convinced that, you saw a little deflection sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Oh, well, that's basketball.
That's basketball.
Mark Kreidler's going to join us bottom of the hour. Mark Kreidler and Jerry and I are going to reminisce about the great Bob Knight. I know you, Indiana guy, you know all about Bob Knight. Mark Kreidler just wrote something about him today. When we come right back, the Kings, do they need more star power to compete in the Western Conference? That's up next here with the Drive Guys on Sactown Sports.
Last season, the Sacramento Kings gave us a little bit of everything. A Pacific Division title, GM of the Year, Coach of the Year, Clutch Player of the Year, All-Stars and All-NBA performers. Plus, we got to light the beam.
Here's a steal by Fox, the breakaway. He's got the rip with the left hand.
What does this season have in store? Find out. Each and every Sacramento Kings game can be heard right here on your proud home of the Beam team, Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave letting you know Capital Casino, Sacramento's #1 poker room and primetime football location is back. Cap Casino giving away $500 per game in high hand bonuses for every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night primetime game, offering the best food, best service, and the best action with the most variety of games in the region and conveniently located in downtown Sacramento. Check it out. Capital Casino. And as always, please remember to gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
At Harbor Freight, we think you shouldn't have to break the bank to get great tools. Because we know that for some of you, tools are part of the job. And for others, they're just the beginning of making, fixing, restoring, and building. That's why we make high-quality tools that are priced affordably, because we love being the start of all your working, making, fixing, restoring, and building. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sactown Sports.
Appreciate you being with us today. Appreciate all your kind comments, especially for Jerry, who's nice enough to join us. Megadeth Knight says, appreciate you coming on the show, Jerry. You are always missed. How about that? Is that what Mrs. Reynolds says?
That wouldn't be her, no. But that is very nice. Very much appreciated.
Yeah. Mies is a Bronco fan, and Mies says, why do you let that be a lesson for Jerry and all Chiefs fans? Nobody beats the Broncos 17 times in a row. So
no, he's right. He proved it. So but it's NFL. Every week is
any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday
or
Monday or Thursday.
Yeah. Walter from Stockton. Hey Jerry, what would it take to get you to call one more Kings game with Kyle Draper and Katie? I would love to see that. Miss hearing you call some games. We did call a game last year, right? Was it last year or the year before?
I think the year before I called too because Katie was sick. And so it was a strange deal because Mark Jones was at the site, I think Charlotte or somewhere, and I did it in studio with him. So it was a little bit, I thought
we very difficult for you.
Oh, yeah, it is. There's no doubt about it. And, I was, even the fact, haven't done it for a while. So I was, Mark's a pro, so he kind of carried me along, but I was pretty discombobulated most of the night.
It's all a lot of things that you're used to checking and looking at that are not available to you, right?
Yeah, no, it's a whole different thing, seeing a game up close and personal. There's things you can see as an analyst. I always say, being on the floor close like we were, to me, you get a real feel of the quickness or the strength of certain players, the matchups. And I always say when some of the places we did games where you'd be up in 25, 30 rows, and it really changes how you see the game.
Well, that's the reason they have you close to the game, right? Is
more and more places aren't because they can sell those seats.
Mm-hmm.
And
was the Forum one of the first places where I don't know if you did a lot of games. Didn't they have the broadcasters way up high?
Chick Hearn did, and he liked it there.
Oh.
And so, but the visitors, we were always on the floor.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't think they've, once they moved
Staples or whatever it is now, Crypto.
I know the last year or so, I think we were up part ways. I know the Clippers had us up part ways.
Yeah. And Mike Bibby made his debut in the last game as a TV analyst, did a really good job. It was amazing because Kyle was asking me, Kyle didn't get to see it, how'd it go? And it's like, couldn't tell it was his first game. But it was interesting because Mike said he never really planned on doing that. How about you? You never really planned on being an analyst, right?
No. It's just kind of like a lot of things you go through life. And I remember when Jim Thomas, the owner at that time, came to me and said, he said, I'd like for you to do this. I think you'd be good at it. And you're a Sacramento King, in other words, wanted to kind of have a continuity of somebody in the franchise. And I think that maybe the other reason was I would be cheap.
Nah.
And so I was already under contract. So, so is that.
If I may ask, did you have to think about it? Did you have to ponder whether it was something you wanted to do?
I didn't do a lot of pondering in those days. When the owner said they wanted me to do something,
okay.
I had very, very, very quick pondering.
I gotcha. Kind of a ponder-free moment.
Ponder-free.
Yeah. How long did it take before you felt like, all right, I know what I'm doing. I got this.
It was, I'd say at least a full year.
Really?
Yeah. I started off working with Gary Gerald, and I'm always so thankful for that because he was so patient and took time. And I was terrible, but
I'll bet you
I know I was.
better.
No, I was terrible. I always remember it took me a while where guys would be talking in the headset, telling you something, and I'd answer it on the.
No,
I did a couple times. I sure did. And so it was. I'm glad that a lot of fans have forgotten those early games, and so, but it, after that,
I don't ever remember that.
Kind of once you got, once I got comfortable with it, and then we did that at the end of the year. They switched to Grant and me, and I'd already kind of got a comfort zone with Gary, but it was, Grant was easy to work with, and he's like G-Man, pro's pro differently, and so I just always I always approached it like I was a role player, and I think that's what an analyst should be is blend in with the play-by-play. Don't take the spotlight. Be fit in.
Yeah, but your love of the game, I think, always came through. You always had that natural understanding of it, the ability to explain that, but also just the fact that you loved everything that you were seeing. And still do.
I just really got a thrill out of the game, and just like a kid, and I think early on, or really pretty much all the way, that I knew all the players and all the coaches because I'd been scouting or involved in basketball at every level, and so it's really an easy job. I didn't have to put in a lot of time because I already knew it. And I think the last year or so, it was starting to get harder for me that I'd actually have to prepare a lot more, which I didn't like, by the way. I don't like to prepare, as most of the fans probably figured out. So he's not prepared at all.
Do you remember who your first nickname was? The first player you gave a nickname to, and how they responded?
Yeah, I think it was Beno Udrich. I think it was a Tasmanian Slovenian.
Controversial.
Well, there's one lady that she came to me and thought it was offensive to Slovenians, and
Or
I said,
Tasmanians
and to Beno. I said, well, I went to Beno before I used it, and he really enjoyed it. So I said, yeah, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, those things just kind of silly, but they just would come to me, or
well, it was natural. It's like that's So
yeah, and I just think you got to have a little fun with the game. I mean, I like to always felt like let's focus on the game on the floor as much as we can, during free throws or dead balls or something like that. You can, get your little stories in, but or when you're way behind, which obviously those last few years, I had a chance to make all kinds of stories up.
Really stretch your wings out a little
bit.
bit.
A little different when you're 30 ahead or 30 behind. We're behind a lot more than that. So anyway, I really enjoyed it though. I mean, I think of all the basketball jobs I've had through the years at every level I think that was the broadcasting became the most fun for me
because you didn't have to worry about losing, right?
No, I mean I hated, it bothered me to see the Kings lose because I'm for them. But
you knew it wasn't your fault.
I knew I wasn't going to get blamed for it.
Yeah.
And so by the time I got home, I was over it.
And
so, it wasn't like I lost a lot of sleep like you would normally, or I did.
You're just trying to figure out how to fix things, right? When you're coaching.
Or no, you couldn't. That's even worse.
Yeah. Well, here's a key question here, and I know we touched on this earlier. Do the Kings need more star power to compete in the West? I think if the Kings struggle one way or the other, either because they're having a hard time finding their rhythm or just there are a lot of other teams in the West playing better, I think that's going to be a question a lot of people are asking around here because the West is stacked with good teams and a lot of star power. The Kings have a fun roster, an excellent roster. Do you think there's a good chance that come trade deadline, they're going to have to look around and say, yeah, we need more star power to keep up with these other teams in the West?
Well, I be honest with you, I kind of think they do. But I think it's going to be tough for them to get that via trade. Without gutting the team. And that wouldn't necessarily solve the problem. I do think the best chance of getting more star power is Keegan Murray becoming a star. I think you really do need 3-star level players in order to compete at the highest levels.
But you also don't think he's going to be there for a couple of years, right?
I think he's ahead of schedule, to be honest. I would have said, maybe 4th year, but I really think by the end of the year, we'll see so much improvement last year as the season went. We've seen a different player early. So yeah, I think it's possible that he could this year, be close to that level. But it's hard to, everybody knows what you need. It's hard to get it.
Is it reasonable to think that Vezenkov, while maybe not a star, but that he could be, if he finds his rhythm offensively, he could be a real impact player this year?
I think he could be a real valuable scorer off the bench. I do. I think that, this bench has a chance to be really good, and would be a part of that. Of course, Malik Monk, certainly he's a terrific player. JaVale McGee does his job. I think that, as the season goes, and I think that could be a key, is the Kings bench could be better than the other team's bench in most cases. And so that gives you a little edge and sort of, but it goes back to the basic question. You'd like to have Kawhi Leonard, but
he's not available, is he?
I don't believe he is.
Then if you could get him, well, hey, you could have gotten James Harden. He was available, right?
I'm sure glad they didn't. And he
wasn't available because he was picking where he wanted to go. Were you surprised by the talk that the Kings kicked the tires at least on Bradley Beal?
I was really surprised. And
I was too, assuming it's accurate.
I just don't know if he'd have been a good fit here. And of course, it's always been about availability with him for the last several years. 3 years ago, he's probably one of the best guards in the league, but really the last two, he really hasn't.
Mhm.
And of course, hadn't been available yet. So, yeah, that surprised me if that were true. I don't know that it was.
Right. Yeah. We know that we lost an icon this week. The great Bobby Knight passed away. You're an Indiana guy, and it just so happens that your friend, my former partner, Mark Kreidler, wrote about Bobby Knight today. So I thought maybe we bring Kreids on, and between the three of us, we see where we are with Bobby Knight, the legend of Bobby Knight, and whether he was the greatest college basketball coach ever. You up for some of that?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's next. Mark Kreidler joining us here. Drive Guys with Jerry and for Kyle on Sactown Sports.
Will Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers brass go all the way this season? Could the Niners win their first Super Bowl since 1995? Join us throughout the season to hear all the games and all the analysis on Sactown Sports at SactownSports.com.
Guys, did you know your testosterone affects everything in your system, including how you feel and perform every day? Right now, Revive Men's Health Sacramento will check your testosterone for free. Knowing your T levels is the first step in understanding if you have low T. Your testosterone level impacts your energy, libido, sleep, weight, hair loss, mood, and even ED. Maintaining an appropriate T level can change your whole life. Most men start to see changes in their hormone levels in their 30s. Experience and results matter. So what are you waiting for? Get your T levels checked today by local, experienced, and trusted men's health experts. They've helped thousands of men since 2011. They're so confident they can help you, they even guarantee it. Call Revive today and schedule your free testosterone test, free exam, and free consultation. Call Revive Men's Health at 916-277-8599. That's 916-277-8599. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine. Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
I was in foot pain for 20 years, trying to give it relief, buying all these different insoles, drugstore insoles, custom insoles. I spent thousands of dollars. I bought all these products and not a single one worked. I really, truly needed to have relief in my feet, and the Good Feet Arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed.
For over 20 years, we've been helping people like Teresa actually live the life they love without their feet getting in the way.
They wanted to make sure that I got something that my feet felt good in, not somebody else's feet. I love the fact that I can wear these arch supports in all my shoes. I have boots, I have cowboy boots, I have running shoes, I have walking shoes, I have flat shoes, I have heels. It makes me so happy. If you ask my husband, he will crack up because there is no store I would rather go in than a shoe store. I'm Teresa, and that's my Good Feet story.
See what we can do for you with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Knee, hip, foot, leg, or back pain? Visit the Good Feet store in Sacramento, Roseville, and Vacaville.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sactown Sports.
25 seasons. You've been with the Kings longer than 25 seasons, haven't you? Yeah. There we go. We got you. We're good.
Yeah. I forgot how to do it. Pretty,
It's been, we're coming up on 4 hours.
Yeah, my little brain is starting to shrink up.
All guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. I had the pleasure of years ago hosting a morning show on this station, and one of the gentlemen who was with me is going to join us now, and I know he's one of your favorite sports writers, right?
He really is. I mean, obviously just the best. And I've read several of his books, and he's terrific.
I've seen several of his books. I don't know. I haven't actually,
Yeah, you have to open them and actually spend a little time.
But, for those who are fans of Mark Kreidler, they probably know this. Some may not. He's still actually writing. He's got a blog, sports blog, The Dope, and he wrote about Bobby Knight today. Anyway, here he is, the one and only Mark Kreidler. How are you, Mr. Kreidler?
Well, I'm great, Whitey Gleason. And Jerry, it's good to hear your voice, my friend. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Thank you. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah. I don't know, Mark, you got so much going on. I don't know if you're watching any of the in-season tournament. We just happen to have it on here. And Jerry and I, we're having a hard time with some of the multicolored courts. I don't know. We just like the old hardwood.
It's driving me away, Cridey. It's driving me away.
Let me tell you, I feel as though, and I've just caught a little of it so far, just on the front edge here. I feel as though we've entered a different league for some other purpose, possibly in a different country, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you said, yeah, hey, the guys all decided, we're going to Portugal for about a couple weeks here, and there's some good money to be made over there, so we're just going to skip out. And by the way, this is what their courts look like. Otherwise, I'm tremendously confused.
Yeah, well, basketball is basketball, right? We lost an icon this week, and you wrote about Bobby Knight today on The Dope, right, Mark Kreidler?
Did, and I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah, truly, genuinely an iconic person, and an interesting character, and a sort of a miserable guy. Like, I think his life to me is really, really fascinating because it holds up for this truth, and Jerry knows this extremely well because he's lived it on the inside. But one of the things I mentioned in the column is, what we know about athletes would fit in a film, but we don't know anything about these guys. We think we do because we see them get interviewed, but we don't know. And I think sometimes we make the mistake of thinking we know coaches better just because we see them. Sometimes, they outlive classes of players. If you're a college coach like Bob Knight, he outlasted multiple classes of players. He was the guy who stayed. And through the years, you just sort of think, well, I probably know him. And I think his life just sort of serves as a really good reminder. We don't know too much about these guys because his public reputation was as a crashing bore who happened to win games. And the feedback from his own players, not universal, of course, but from a lot of them, is how much they feel they owe him for the way he coached, which is actually, part of what got him run out after a while.
And in Indiana, he must have been like a godlike figure, right, Jer?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, not that he didn't have his detractors, because he made sure he did.
Yeah.
I mean, but I was a junior college coach when he came to Indiana for the first time, and I always remember I met him as a young Bobby Knight because he came over to try to recruit Bob McAdoo.
Oh, yeah.
But Mac wasn't really interested, and he didn't make a great impression on me. I mean, but it's like Mark said, I mean, absolutely great coach. I'll give him that. And I know a lot of the guys that played
Mike
for him.
Woodson loves him.
Mike Woodson, guys that played for him. Most of them really liked and respected him, then, even though he was very hard on them. So
I think they seem to understand, or maybe, when you're a young guy and you're just trying to do as well as you can, maybe it's not so much understanding, but just saying, well, this must be one way to do it. But I'm interested, Jerry, from your perspective, not just as a coach, but an executive. How many guys actually ever won like this? Sort of being a coach who really would just openly berate players. And I think people watching would sort of say, oh, he's just trying to make them better. But I'm not sure that always works.
Well, yeah, it's a good point, and I think with Bob Knight, he could do it. And it worked for him. But I always said there's so many, I saw high school guys in Indiana or different places that tried to be like that. And it not only didn't work, it just just basically cost them their jobs.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, no, Bob Knight can do that. He can get by with it, and he may be the last one that could get by with it.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, but I think more honest, it comes down to, besides the toughness, he was a genius. He was way ahead of the game in the passing game.
Really?
Yeah. He just as an absolute teacher, he was, I don't think there's any doubt for a period of 10, 15 years, there was nobody his equal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes that's lost in the whole thing, that he was brilliant. He was a brilliant teacher.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we've, I guess the best way to put it is we've adequately covered his flaws, because that's the stuff that really, toward the end of his career, was really all that anybody could write about, because it became such a dominant, feature. But in reading about his life this week, a couple of things struck me. Not only, he coached, in the end, he coached Army, Indiana, and Texas Tech, of course, at the end. None of those programs was ever even rumored to be in any sort of trouble at all. None was ever investigated by the NCAA, which maybe you think of as a low bar to clear, but I'd say it's a lot easier to get investigated than not. Also, he graduated his kids as Indiana kids. As long as someone was in the program at least 4 years, his graduation rate was 98%.
Wow.
And it was a different time, right? I mean, different rules applied. But the number's the number. So, I mean, this is a guy who donated $5 million to build a library on the campus at Indiana, or enhance the library at the campus. Like, I'm just saying, I'll look at a guy like Mike Brown, if the Kings are winning, and just think, well, look, of course they're winning. Look, he's happy, upbeat, got their back. What do I know? I mean, the truth is that he's probably 5 different guys, depending on what the moment calls for. And I would guess Bob Knight was that too. We saw the worst of him the most often, and that's the way it worked out.
Yeah, and he had some really lifelong friends. I mean, just had great relationships with a number of people, and obviously, I think he's one of those guys that was fine with that. Mm-hmm. I always said that, kind of like Rick Adelman. I always really admired as a terrific coach, great man. He just didn't really care about the media. Mm-hmm. He just wanted to coach his team and go home to his family. And
except Kreidler, I think he was a big fan of Kreidler.
Well, yeah, who couldn't?
Right, right.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Bob Knight had the great line about writers. We all learned to write in second grade. Most of us moved on to better things. But the truth was, he gave, over the course of his lifetime, coaching lifetime, I should say, he gave, for all his disdain of the media, many, many times, he gave deep, extensive interviews to writers on lots and lots of topics. And of course, he let John Feinstein, trail the program for a full year for a book that so enraged him when it was published that he didn't speak to Feinstein for 8 years. But not because it was inaccurate, is because he didn't like the fact that Feinstein included all of his cussing and all of his vulgarity. So, again, I think he's a pretty good example of the fact that we don't probably know as much about the people we feel close to in sports as we think we do. We think we know a lot, and the truth is we probably don't know much more than their, alma mater and a few stats.
When I think of the greatest college coaches, just to be honest, I don't think of him as up there with Dean Smith, John Wooden. Should I? I mean, just in terms of because I resent him for all the, the negative things that he did and that we saw. Should I, Mark Kreidler, should I consider Bob Knight amongst those guys as one of the greatest coach ever?
I think so. Absolutely. Not just the 3 championships, but the last unbeaten team.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously played a great schedule. To me, John Wooden will always be number 1.
Uh-huh.
And I think Coach K probably could move into the second spot. And of course, affinity for Smith, even though he won 2 championships. And I think Jim Calhoun would be the guy that is overlooked most often and was a truly great coach. So,
yeah,
but he's there. He's there. I just, I think, his input, I mean, he had high, not just 3 championships, but a whole lot of number 1, number 2, 3 ranked teams. So,
Yeah, and 5 Final Fours in a short amount of time, relatively speaking, at Indiana. But the truth is that he absolutely could not enjoy victory, and I know that describes a lot of coaches, you guys. But he was completely fixated on the flaws. He couldn't overcome it, and I think in a lot of ways it undid him over time. And in the end, he retired from Texas Tech right in the middle of the season. When it was almost as though he had just completely and fully hit his limit. And that was the only thing, I don't think coaches it's not like you're bound by your contract to be a happy guy. You're paid to win. He is an absolute winner, but he enjoyed surprisingly little of it. And that's just a part of this sort of really complicated life.
Yeah, Mark Kreidler. And if you aren't aware already, he's got a sports blog, and it's called I Am a Dope, right? How do people check out I Am a Dope by Mark Kreidler?
It's extremely close to accurate, which is what you've always been known for. It's called The Dope. And you can get it at markkreidler.substack.com. You can subscribe for free, and then hopefully you'll be so thrilled that you'll start paying me. But it's just a way to keep a hand in and enjoy, these games that we love, man.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry I got the name wrong.
That's okay. You've never gotten one title book on any book I've written correct.
Now Mark, that's not true, right?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. Although I'll admit, I've kind of only looked at most of my books as well.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm not sure I've actually read them.
Thank you, Mark, especially on a Friday. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on this. Yeah. And,
great to talk to you.
Yeah, we'll talk to you again soon. We'll see you soon, okay?
You bet. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Mark. Enjoyed it.
All right, buddy.
The one and only Mark Kreidler. When we come back, why this weekend shapes up as a great weekend for watching football. And we'll see if Jerry cares to answer the question of the week here on this show. Very controversial. People wanted me to ask Jerry about the Kobe or KD question. So, we'll get to that too when we come back here. It's a Drive Guys with Jerry in for Kyle Draper today on Sactown Sports.
Trying to find out where to catch your favorite team's games?
Are you a fan of the Kings, Niners, and the NFL? Well, Sactown Sports has you covered.
Touchdown! San Francisco! It's all on his shoulders. Cox rocks. He fires for the win. He's got the triple.
Catch all your Kings, Niners, and NFL games all year long on Sactown Sports and SactownSports.com.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Bonnie.
I'm Mark Finan in the KCRA 3 Weather Center. Skies will stay mainly clear through the night tonight. A few clouds overnight. Temperatures by morning will be in the low to mid 50s. Nice day Saturday. Partly cloudy with highs in the mid to upper 70s. Get the latest forecast on the KCRA 3 News and the KCRA 3 app.
Winter's coming, so let's kick off the cold season right and get your heater all tuned up. Now just $79. No matter how cold it gets outside, you'll always be warm and toasty inside. Plumbing, sewer, electrical, heating, and air, Bonnie.com.
Hello, I'm Frank Cockrell, the Retirement Security Center with a weekly economic update. The Federal Reserve determined to keep the discount rate the same for the second consecutive meeting. Raising rates once more is still a possibility when they meet in December to remain vigilant in their fight against inflation. One of the biggest drivers of recent inflation is wages. Wage growth has averaged 4.6% over the past 12 months. With unemployment still under 4%, this could be a persistent issue. Some positives due to inflation are retirement plan contribution increases and tax bracket relief in 2024. Standard contributions to 401k and 403b accounts have increased to $23,000 with a catch-up option of $7,500 for those 50 and older. IRA and Roth limits are raised to $7,000 with an additional $1,000 eligible for those 50 and older. Federal tax filers will see an increase in the amount of adjusted gross income earned to be able to stay in the same tax bracket. Adjusted gross income is your income after deductions. How might this affect you or your family? Please go to frankontheradio.com to schedule an appointment, watch videos, and receive market updates. I'm ready to help you start your journey so you can define your future.
Frank Cockrell is a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation, a broker-dealer and member SIPC, and registered investment advisor. Retirement Security Centers is not an affiliate of Lincoln Financial Advisors.
The Drive Guys powering your afternoons Monday through Friday on Sactown Sports.
All right, I'm going to stick my neck out here because this is for you. MTDG wants me to ask you this question, Jerry. It's Jerry in for Kyle Draper today. And of course, Kyle Draper in Houston. We got the Kings and the Rockets tomorrow, and then the Kings and the Rockets Monday. By the way, on our show, Kyle will be on our show Monday. We've got a very abbreviated show because then the Kings and Rockets will be playing early. But, Jerry, something came up this week, and appreciate your honest response. Maybe, because I'm taking a lot of heat on this, and if I get more heat from you, I you know how much I respect your basketball opinion. We were talking about Kevin Durant, where he fits into the all-time rankings for what that's worth. And I gave my opinion, which is my opinion. I stand by it. To me, I have KD. I think he's a better player than Kobe Bryant. I said that this week, and I don't know if it'll happen again, but people went nuts. Kyle Draper literally laughed at me. In fact, yesterday when we were off the air, he said, let me ask you, do you really think that? He thought I was a bit or something. I just think because he was so much more efficient, and they're both great players. Don't get me wrong. I know that. They're great players, and I know that Kobe was a much better defender. But to me, given the efficiency of Kevin Durant, I think he was a better player than Kobe. So someone wanted me to ask you what you thought of that. So there you go.
Well, my take would be actually similar to yours. I mean, they're both great players, both top 10, 15 all time. But Kobe wasn't nearly as efficient scorer as Durant. I mean, he's one of those guys. Durant was one of those guys that was going to get 1.5 every shot, and Kobe's going to get 1.2 points a shot. Now, they both be great scorers, and that's the most valuable part of their game was their scoring ability. And Durant scored at a more productive rate. So
much more productive.
Yeah. So I mean, at some point you got to. I mean, as much as you love watching Kobe play, and
both greats, like you said. I mean,
that's what I say. I mean, it's
greats.
It's to me, it's chicken or the egg kind of thing. I mean, like two of the all-time greats, different positions, and all that. But I just think the main thing you judge them on is scoring, and one was more efficient than the other.
And of course, KD's not done yet, too.
No,
he continues to climb.
He could still climb, and I think with Kobe probably took him a little longer to become great.
Yes,
Durant about his second year or so, you knew he's going to be.
And I think people forget that. And Jay in there had an interesting point. He and I were talking. He said people, value as they should Kobe's championships, and in Jay's opinion, Durant, if he wins another one at some point, maybe then conventional wisdom will that those two are more equal. But that's a fair point. I mean, I do think Kobe. Some people think Kobe won championships virtually by himself. I certainly didn't do that when he was with Shaq. But anyway, that's a fair point. KD would be nice for his legacy in future discussions, debates on this, if he gets at least one more.
Somewhere. Yeah, I think with most fans, and certainly we've already, most fans would say, until Durant gets another one, he can't be classified as better. And I wouldn't argue with that. But it's almost the Jordan James kind of argument. Jordan's got 6. He's got,
right.
I mean, but
it's Kareem got, huh? He got 6.
Yeah. And so I mean, it's just
but you don't think it's laughable that I say that, huh?
No, it's amazing. I mean, it's close, because I agree with you. So we're both laughable, I guess.
Okay.
So, I mean, and it's tough. It's a tough call because, I always say like the LeBron and Michael thing. I mean, I think you take the 5 best years of Michael's career and the 5 best of LeBron's, Michael was better. But you look at the totality of their careers, it doesn't compare. LeBron's the greatest ever.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I hesitated there because I was going to go off on that whole thing, but we've been down that road. Michael Jordan at his peak, I think you could maybe say this about a number of guys, but Michael Jordan at his peak, there's no one better, right?
I don't know.
Michael Jordan at his peak.
Yeah, at his peak. I mean, and
Kareem, I would say the same about Kareem.
I think Kareem, I really think you could put Bird in there as well if you just go like 5,
right?
About 5 years, because when you're a 50, 40, 90 guy and averaging 29 a game, and big winner.
That's it. Yeah, he won a few games too, didn't he? He wasn't putting up empty calorie numbers. Yeah. All right. So there you go. MTDG, pardon me. Thank you for listening. Appreciate that. Jerry, there's no 49er game this weekend, but this is a great football on TV weekend if you're an NFL fan. As you well know, you got your team, 6:30 Sunday, Miami and the Chiefs from Frankfurt, Germany. I guess they're crazy about the game in Frankfurt. I don't know, at least for this game. And Jerry says he's going to get up early for that one.
Well, I'm always up at 6:30. So
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be on my third cup of coffee by then.
A big game for your team, bounce back week after what happened to him last week.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got to get our quarterback healthy, feeling good, and they need to find somebody else that can catch a ball besides Kelsey.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know if Taylor Swift's going to be in Frankfurt? I don't.
Well, I mean, it's very important that she show up there. I know it's. I'm starting to get concerned about that, but not just Taylor Swift, but I mean, between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, I think they're in every commercial that has been made in the last 2 years.
Yeah, they are in a number of them. Good for them. Good for them. So that's the early game. Then at 10 a.m., we got Seattle at Baltimore, which is 5-2 against 6-2. So, sometimes you don't know. These games may not end up being great games, but in terms of a game between two teams that have played well with a lot on the line, especially if you're a 49er fan, Seattle at Baltimore, that's another good one. Let's go Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens have looked awfully good. Of course, it all depends on Lamar staying healthy. That's it.
I don't like the Seahawks, and I have been, dismissing them as much as I can all season long. And now here we are at a point where if you're the 49ers, you're looking up at them in the standings. I don't like that, Jerry. I don't like that one bit.
I don't like that team either, although I give them credit. I think Pete Carroll always does a good job, and they've resurrected Geno Smith, and so give them their props.
Yeah, I give him the most credit of anybody there. Geno Smith never gave up on himself.
Yeah, no, that's well, I mean, that's the nature of the league. You better not.
Mm-hmm. So that's the 10 a.m. window. Then at 1 o'clock, we've got Dallas at Philadelphia. And that could be a blowout. Who knows? But that's another game with major NFC ramifications for the 49ers. But that's another fine matchup, the Cowboys against the Eagles. I'm not real confident that the Cowboys are going to get it done because I don't know if you heard, but this week on his own radio show, Jerry Jones said, fella's wearing some serious bleep. That's what he said on his radio show. That's not what you're supposed to say before a big game.
No, it really isn't, but it may be true, but you're not supposed to say it. And, but that's one of those games to where, truthfully, I'd like them both to lose. But
yes, that would be nice. How do we make that happen?
But then, of course, if the Eagles lose, Kyle, I mean, he might not be able to show up to work. What do you think?
That's another reason why I would like that.
Yeah.
He'll show up to work.
He'll show up to work, but he'll be.
Oh, he'll be
cranky, won't he?
Yeah. And look, he deserves it. His team is flying high, but he has been enjoying every bit of this 49er slump. Every last
a little too much. Too much.
Yeah,
a little too much.
And then he'll say, I'm concerned for the 49ers. And that deep down he's just yes. So it'd be nice to see him get a little of that himself here. But frankly, I doubt that Cowboys are going to do that.
I doubt it.
Yeah. So then the late game, the Sunday night football is Buffalo at Cincinnati. So that's a nice Sunday for watching football.
That is a really nice Sunday, and I mean, Cincinnati looks like they've really put it together and Burrow's healthy, but then the Bills, we know every other week they're great.
Mm-hmm.
They're really bad one week and great the next and bad, I don't know, how they wake up is something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you happen to watch any of Thursday Night Football? Which was the Titans and the Steelers.
I did, and it shows you really what a just terrible life I have. Yeah.
Well, I'm right there with you because I was watching.
Yeah, I did want to see the quarterback of the Titans, Will Levis.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like he's going to be a good one. His arm strength looks kind of like Josh Allen or somebody.
It does. He'll stand back there off his back foot
and just
fling it,
zing it.
Yeah.
And so I think they might have got something there. And the Steelers, I like Mike Tomlin a lot. And
I do too. I love Mike Tomlin.
And they just do what they do. They are who they are, and they do what they do.
That's right. That's Jerry's new saying that we're trying to get. We'll just put it on a T-shirt. Yeah. They are who they are, and they do what they do.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the Steelers. That's Mike Tomlin.
The Steelers set a weird record last night. Are you aware of this? They made a kind of NFL history. So they played 8 games now. Okay. They're the 34th team in the history of the league to get outgained in every game, all 8 games. Every game they've been outgained. They're the first team in history to get outgained in all of their first 8 games and have a winning record. They're 5-3.
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it really is. That's one of those numbers is how can you win when you're constantly outgained?
Right.
But, if you don't turn the ball over, there's ways that kind of, I mean, of course, that's Tomlin's team, is that just stay in the game some way and then figure out a way to win at the end.
I'm rooting for them this year because I'm rooting for him. And I think, he has a contract deal coming up, and the Steelers have had 2 head coaches ever, whatever it is, something
3,
ridiculous like that. Yeah.
Chuck Noll and
Cower
and then him.
Yeah. But they're minus 30 in net points. They've given up 30 more points than they've scored, but they're 5-3 right there in the thick of that AFC North race. So it's a curious number. And I think in a way it shows that this NFL season is a little watered down. Maybe you don't have a ton of great teams.
I don't know that, that's the important point, I think, is why if I was a Niner fan, I wouldn't be critical, because there's no great teams. And you look at all the better teams, which the Niners are one of, you see flaws. There's no Patriots of Tom Brady,
right,
or the Bears of Dent and all those guys.
Jer, we're done. Thanks. You did a great job. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Hey, I've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
And, I didn't doze off a single time.
Thank you for being with us. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening to Sactown Sports.
Has Monty put together a roster that can help make a deep playoff run this season?
Just trying to